Okay, so here's our map from the last stream, which we will look at in a sec, because we're going to be continuing on today with what we was doing last stream. I'm going to hide that just for a second now, because we have a poll again, another poll. Yes, this is a very important poll. That you will need to vote for. We've already got 16 votes, but we need more. So if you haven't voted yet, folks in chat, here you go. Feel free to pop your vote in, because I'm very curious how the results are gonna end up for this one. I'll tell you that. I'm not going to show you the results. You'll have to vote to see what the results are. Thank you, Neffel, for the kind words. Quiet weekend for once, mostly lurking today, working on a small game for my youngest to help him learning his alphabet. Oh, how cute. That's sweet, Asriel. Hope that goes well. I'm not ready to start my day. I think I left my brain in the weekend. Yeah, me too. Me too. I think a lot going on has piled on top of me lately, so we're gonna take it easy. And yes. Did you guys see who won the last poll out of humans and reptiles? That it just changed. One of them was winning, and then in the last few hours the other one took over. I was shocked. Just stopped by to see how the RPG is going. Oh, thank you for stopping by and checking Eulogy. Catching up on how we're doing. Not too bad though, in all honesty. This last season also has been hella unproductive for me. Because there's a lot going on in life. Well, there has been. I think it has been for everybody in 2020, to be honest. It's not exactly the best year in the world for us all. But yeah, like right now we're going through a moving house process, and that is, we've had a load of randos in the house over the last couple of weeks, just coming in at random times. And obviously with COVID and stuff, that can be a little bit anxiety inducing. It's not really the best time to have people coming round. So that's one extra thing piled on top of something else that happened in the summer. But it's to relate to family stuff, and my nan passed away, so that's it. There's loads of stuff happening, and just taking my sweet time as you do. I don't put pressure on myself with this project. I'm not like, oh, this has to be out now, or this has to be out this month, or whatever, because that's a recipe for burnout. So I try to be kind to myself. I think that's important for us all. We gotta be kind to ourselves. How are you feeling today? I'm okay. I'm all right. Like I said, loads of stuff's happening with me at the moment. I'll be honest guys, I could do with a week off. I think I'm due for having sort of time off. I think it'll do me good, because with all the stuff that's happened as well, I mean all that stuff in real life as well as stuff on Twitch hasn't been wonderful lately either. Had to ban somebody last week, and that wasn't fun either. When it's a long-term community member, it's not fun. When it's just a random new person troll, it's not really an issue, because that happens all the time. But it can be a very difficult thing when it's someone who's so integrated in the community. And 2020 is like someone is reading a choose-your-own-adventure story and keeps making the dumb choices. I know, right, Eulogy? So true, so true. Sorry to hear that, Rose. I'm sure she was a good person. Just try and remember all the good times with the miss. Yeah, the issue with my nan is one tiny thing compared to everything else going on. So, you know, it's just one thing after another for everybody this year. I'm sure I'm not the only one. My God, that's gone the wrong way. I'm going to cough now. It's all right. I might have to put myself on mute for a sec. There we go. Went down the wrong way. So true. I've already filled one bingo card this year. Yeah. So guys, I mean, well, I'll see how it goes. I'm gonna see how the rest of this week goes stream-wise, because who knows, maybe I'll start feeling like super energetic and fine to carry on as we are. But if I'm finding I'm getting a bit low energy and things are piling on top of me, I might take the week after this one off. But I'll keep you all in the know. Keep you updated. I think it can help to have that week off sometimes to refresh yourself and recharge your batteries. But I see we got some more votes, so thanks for the votes, guys. I think the results of this poll, without spoiling, are going exactly how I expected them to, but things could change. Alright everybody, so that's enough now. I might just remind folks at the end of stream about that poll, because I like getting in as many votes as possible on these polls, so I tend to spam stream with them when I can. Alright, so we're carrying on with what I was doing last week. I've still got a reply to your message as well then, which I'll probably do tonight. Okay, Photoshop, here we go. So I've brought this into Photoshop now, by the way, everybody, because we're going to be doing some layers today. So I figured it'd be easier having it in Photoshop. Also, one thing I have done, you might have noticed, I have removed a couple of the rectangles from here, but that doesn't mean I'm getting rid of them. It just means I feel like there's another place for them. So what I'm going to do is, maybe I'll do it here. I'm going to add some text to this left side here next to here. Let's get the right font for us. So I'm going to call this what was that? Oh, I see what it is. Van sub to Twitch Prime, 6 months.
Wow,
6 months is a special number.
Looking forward to many more.
That's awesome, Van. Thank you so much for the 6 months of support. But looking forward to many more here. Yeah, let's have some hype in chat for that, because that is 6 months is a special, half a year. Your raindrop gets a little bit deeper in colour, I think, as well at 6 months. So you're probably a little bit more pink now. Got a cute Pikachu emote. Oh, that is a cute one, Apple. You guys do have some cute emotes, I have to say. In my chat, seeing all of them, I approve. Alright, so what I was thinking of doing was, because we were having a lot of really cool suggestions from the community. Why isn't this text behaving itself? I know, it's because for some reason Photoshop decides to put the, there we go, it's proper now. So we was having some really cool ideas last stream, and I was actually really shocked with how many amazing ideas you had, folks, for biomes, because we're doing sort of world building stuff today. I've changed the stream title to world building because I think that's a bit more relevant to this than the story suggests-a-thon. because we're sort of looking at the bigger picture here. We're looking at how our world's going to look in terms of environments and zones and biomes and all that thing, and that is definitely the bigger picture, because we're not going to see many of these zones until future episodes. But we'll go back to the story suggestathon once we've got, like, once we're happy with our initial thoughts with this, and we thought of some stuff. So cast was one. I guess that is a rock type, isn't it, guys? Because it's limestone, correct? And I kind of, before I put it here under Everbloom Forest, but I was starting to think, well, why should it just be under Everbloom Forest? Like, it could kind of be scattered in a few areas, maybe, because it's a rock type, isn't it? So it doesn't necessarily have to be restricted to one zone. Plus, I've started to realise I didn't want anything around Everbloom Forest other than the farm zone and maybe these two, because putting too much stuff around the Everbloom Forest puts pressure on me to get loads of stuff around, you know, that map and loads of different areas, and it's not gonna happen. So because episode 1 is our first area, it's probably better to not, like, put too much on myself in terms of areas that are going to be around it, because like I said, we're not really going to have invisible walls in this game. Everywhere you can walk, you can explore, so that means that we're going to have to make sure there's ocean around the places that we can't explore, or cliffs, for example. Everywhere should allow us to get to the farmland, the highlands, or this zone here, but we'll probably have to block these two off because we won't be visiting those. We'll be going to the farmland first, so I'm sure we'll think of some ways to block those off with, like, NPCs or some narrative without it being jarring or forced. I'm sure we'll think of a way we could do that eventually. But another one, ocean types, was a waste. No, not that wasn't an ocean type, sorry, it was a landmark. So oasis was a landmark idea that was suggested last stream, and that would, like, be in the desert, so I'll put desert in brackets. Another one was Death Valley. So is that Death Valley sort of area, which could be the desert, I guess. And the ocean type was Dover Cliffs. So if anybody has any others, feel free to suggest, like, anything that's like a rock type, an ocean type, or a particular landmark for any of these areas, and I'll put them in that list, because if we start adding all of these little extra things to here, it's going to be a bit overwhelming. There's going to be too many zones for us to take in, and it also is like, whoa, for me. And so we'll just keep the rectangles to the key sort of full-on maps we're going to have. And anything that's more fitting into that can go in this list. And we also did some underground zone ideas too. We had some really cool ideas for that. So that's really exciting. Hi Linda, how you doing? It's good to see you. Hope you're having a good Monday and had a good weekend, Linda. It is a little more pink, it is. When peeps get to a year of being subbed, their Raindrop is red then. Like mine. Great day, yay. Alright, so right, here we go. So I think everything we've got here are probably are fine to have as actual zones, and those have got moved there. Right, so I think we're all done in regards to biomes. I think we finalised that side of things last stream, which means we can move on to the next stage today, which is putting NPCs on the map. So I'm gonna kind of remind you guys what that's all about. So if we go to our Discord, I wrote here, I believe, no, not there, here. We're going to be thinking ahead and looking at all the community submitted characters so far. It'll be the first time we'll be looking through all of them thoroughly and deciding the best place for them in the world. We'll make a rough map of biome zones and place each of the characters where we think they would be in the world, based on their backstory, personality, race, appearance, etc. And then we'll decide which ones fit best to be introduced in episode 1 based on that. So this is going to be fun because it's going to kind of give us a sort of idea where everybody's going to make their appearance in the game. And we'll also get more of an idea which of those will actually be in episode 1, because they'll be in the Everbloom Forest if they are. And then we'll also have an idea of who's coming up in episode 2 and who in episode 3 and who in more mid-game or end-game episodes. So we're going to get the Lore Bible up now, everybody. So anyone wanna look at all these profiles with me, along with me? I think that would be fun. So !Lore, guys, if you want to get on there fast. You can find it through the website by clicking read more like I just did, but you can also get to it on this link too. And we was going to do this bit last stream, but we never got time because we spent all stream doing the biomes, which isn't surprising because that can it's so easy to get carried away with like doing that sort of thing, because it's fun. And looks good to me. I think that's enough done. I think so too, Van. I mean, like I said, we don't want to put too much on myself. I mean, we want to create a big world here, and I think this is a big enough world, don't you? Like Everbloom Forest is all episode 1, and we know that we'll be visiting the farmland in episode 2. That's kind of the plan. It seems to be making sense based on the fact that we've already kind of done a portion of that map for the Carol flashback. We know it's nearby. Whether we visit some of the others areas in episode 2 maybe. But like I said, this particular area here, all these sort of deserty wasteland badland zones could literally all be like in one episode, because they're all very, very sort of similar, and I think that could work. But I'm not going to get too caught up on in which zones are going to be in what episode just yet, because we're kind of going to keep that sort of improvised design as well. But I'm glad we've sort of done this, because it's cool to sort of plan ahead. But let's get some NPCs on the map. I think this is fun. Alright, so future, everybody's in future characters basically. We only have, let's zoom in because you need to be able to see this properly. We only have Rose, which is me, my character, and all the barrel or container characters in the game so far. As established characters. Obviously, once we've like talked about some of the like fall NPCs and the reptiles, Rex, etc., they'll also get put into here as well when I update the Lore Bible. But I think it's going to be cool to actually have a look at all of these characters. These are all the community submitted characters from the form on the website, those of you that filled in a form. So basically the ones that people have created themselves, not ones like me or ones that we've done on the stream. So I think it's gonna be cool to figure out a slot for them all. I'll just have like an idea. Did we lose the fungal virus? We did, because it started to get overwhelming for me to think of too much being around the Everbloom Forest, because it's our first zone, and you know, we'll be here until 2024 making episode 1 if we've got all these places around Everbloom Forest. So I'm trying to like make sure there's a lot of ocean around Everbloom Forest, so that it's I'm not putting too much on myself in terms of the world design too soon. And Everbloom Forest has lakes, plenty of lakes and a river, so it makes sense to be close to an ocean. Doesn't mean that we've like said bye forever to the fungal place, because in all honesty it could still be part of Everbloom Forest if we want to make one map that's sort of mushroom heavy. Then we can still do that. We just don't need to like make a whole like area of it. But we don't need to like be rigid and say we've got to have a mushroom zone at this point. It's all going to depend on how side quests for episode 1 go, NPCs and whatever's a fit. Because there was a conversation I had with Van, for example, about their character and a church. And because of that conversation, it's kind of going to be clear that we'll probably have a church in Everbloom Forest. So things like that, if there's ever like a story that opens up where it means we have to create a landmark for it, then that's how it'll go. Rather than create the landmarks before we've decided the story. That's what barrel means. I thought they were wooden barrel people. What's what barrel means? They are wooden barrel people. That is what they are, Linda. You were right. Back to... Okay, so, again, I'll give you guys the link. See, they're wooden barrel people. There. Right. But we're not going to be looking at these today because they're already established. We've already met. Well, we already know where they are. But we don't have a clue where all of you guys are, so we're going to do it in order. We'll do everybody in order, so we'll start with the playable burp characters. Burp. I was going to burp, so I said it out loud. Maybe put myconids living in the Everbloom Forest. I probably butchered the pronunciation of that word. But yeah, we'll see, because you know at this point in time we've got 7 maps in Everbloom Forest, and I can see us creating maybe 4 more, 5 more, 6 more even before we release episode 1. And whatever we add in those maps, it's probably going to be whatever's relevant to the narrative. Because I'm kind of not a fan anymore of having things there pointlessly. I want them to actually link with the narrative. And if the narrative allows it or has a purpose for them being there, then yeah, totally. But we'll be doing more of that in maybe the streams later this week, or whenever, next week or the week after even, because we're going to have to think of some more cool side quests and story elements. So that'll give us an idea what we'll add, what the other maps will be then. Fair enough. I'm still wondering what you thought barrel meant then, because all barrel is this. It can't be any other thing, can it? Gotta be that. And talking about Carol, because we just mentioned her, it's an excuse to tell you all about the polygon, everybody. Would you romance a sentient female barrel NPC, guys? You've got 3 options to choose from. So vote, because it's super important, this polis. I'm very curious on what everyone's answers are going to be. Super curious. Was the new name for a main canon character? Did you? Nah, there's no one called Barrel in the game. I think if there was, that would be a little bit it could be a little bit confusing, couldn't it? So I might have to ask someone to rename their character if that ever happened, which is kind of a rule on here on our website. Where does it say that now? think it was on the form actually. Yeah, so in some situations that's why we've asked what is your character's name, first choice and second choice, just in case the first name isn't ideal. Mainly in case there's already a character with that name. Okay, so should we start? Should we do the first one? We'll do all the playable characters first, then we'll move on to NPCs after. And doing the playable characters is going to be interesting here because we've got 13 playable characters, I believe. Rex is included, but it's an optional one. Rex is, so I'm kind of like haven't put him in the main section yet because of that. But some of these guys might have to be optional too, because it's going to be really, really almost impossible for every single playable character to be one that we meet in the main story. The main story isn't going to be that bloated that we'll be able to meet everybody. So a lot of them will be part of side quests or extra quests along the way that you can recruit. I guess I think that could work. So there'll be a handful of them, I guess, that will be part of the main quest, and another group that will be they'll be unlockable or optional based on certain variables. And we have 13 so far, and I think I said by end game, by the time we finish this whole project, the limit would be 50 playable characters. I wouldn't want to go higher than that because it would be way too much. But looking at games like Chrono Cross, Valkyria Chronicles, games like that, they have dozens of playable characters, about 40-50 in those games, and I think that's the way they've designed it is really fun, really cool, and I think that we're sort of going that a similar way. We have playable characters working our games, so we can have like a variety of classes. Because so far we've got a sorcerer, a knight, a diplomat, herbalist, gunner, chronomancer, druid, dragon tamer, summoner, priest, duelist, an elemental blade master, and a vampire, and a cleric. So, there's dozens of other types of classes that could be in the game that aren't there yet. That is why on our website we have playable characters. Submissions are closed at the moment because of the fact there's only about 36 slots left, but they'll be opening again in January 2021. And they will cost more raindrops, and there will be limited yearly slots, and that way we can have the playable characters filter in more slowly throughout the development of this, rather than have like loads come in at once and it being too much to take in. So playable characters will be trickling in more slowly from now on, but so far I guess we gotta focus on these guys. That seems like the smartest thing to do. And if we're gonna split it, if we got about 13, we don't know how many episodes we're gonna have all together yet, but I could see like a few being in episode 1, and then maybe the others in episode 2 and 3, and we, as well as some others in future applications, will probably be in episode 2 and 3 or 4 as well. Okay, so I guess we're going to be deciding which one's going to be in episode 1 and which one's going to be in episode 2, 3, 4, etc. So, starting with this guy, we're going to go through those first. It's about getting the right balance, because we don't want to like only meet 1 in episode 1 and then meet 12 in episode 2. But we'll have a look and judge them based on their backstory and where they look like they'd be from. And we can always alter things if we feel like we need to have an extra one in episode 1 because we're lacking or something. So then we might have to discuss which ones might be optional and which ones might be part of the main arc as well. But that won't be like fully set in stone until we do a proper outline of the episode 1 plot. Alright. So this is a Swedish Beards character. And he is a Mordecai Dragonshard, an apprentice sorcerer of the Order of Longbeards. So we've got some established lore here coming in, and like just from all these profiles we have some factions already set in stone in our game, and I haven't really spent a lot of time like looking at those or doing profiles for these factions, because it takes away from what we're currently working on now. So whenever this guy introduces himself into the game, for example, that is probably when we'll like build this faction and think about them more, because there's going to be a lot of different ones. We'll search all the lands for the most foul creatures and make myself available for the most dangerous of dungeons and contracts. I shall fear no evil, I shall fear no foe, I will face more danger than no one has done before. Oh yeah, and I'm not as good as sorcerer, I just kind of make up spells on the spot and hope they work. And I can sing decently, yay, songs, Raindrop Chronicles. It'll be a cool reason to make some lyrics, I say, and have some songs in the world. Alright, so first thoughts, and I'm definitely up for hearing what you guys think about this too. But he's a sorcerer and he's from an order called the Longbeards. And he's a wizard sorcerer, yeah, and he's from... So, judging by this information we have about him and looking at the biomes we have, to me, and I'm up for hearing what you guys think too, to me he seems to fit from being from like something like here. Because Longbeards, maybe I'm thinking very Skyrim here, because there was it was very similar there in that game. But they were high up in the peaks and they had like their little sort of far away building high up in the mountains. And I'm imagining just from like the hood and the whole vibe, the style aesthetics of that character, he could fit with being from the mountains. Or the highlands, but mainly the mountains because it feels a bit more epic. I'm not getting a vibe of him hanging around any of these other areas as much. So, what do chat think? I'd imagine the wizard come from somewhere super remote. Yes, that's, well, good point, Linda. Far away. They wouldn't be in a populated area, they're mysterious. So, they'd probably keep away from people. And Van just says lives in the Tiger Zone. That's something to consider too, because there's something, the cloak and things like that fit with a cold, very cold sort of theme. Maybe not super cold like the snow, but something like that. I'm definitely thinking either mountain or taiga for that guy then. Those are sort of working for me, and I think for now we don't want to set it too rigidly in stone, because we might decide, oh, he's better in the mountains, or we might be like, no, he's better in the taiga. So to kind of have a couple of options right now is probably the smartest thing to do. So we could say either or of those. Mountain Zone sounds good. A temple school that is very hard to get to and well hidden. Yeah, that could work for sure. So, looking right now, mountain or taiga seems to fit. Hi Kevin, can you show your game? Unfortunately not. I can't show it on stream because we're in the middle of doing some world building today. But I do have a website for you, Kevin, so feel free to have a look. There's some... there's stuff all on there, and there's a press kit as well at the bottom if you want to see videos and screenshots. Hi Andy Cake, how are you doing? It's good to see you. Hope you're having a good Monday. How are you, Andy? How was your weekend? So, I'm really glad, Linda, you've mentioned these things, because it's all very, you know, it fits. This is kind of the goal of this stream. We're deciding why these characters are going to fit in certain zones more than others, because we want to be realistic. We're not going to put a wizard in, like, you know, an urban area, like, unless like his story led him there and there was a purpose for him being there, it would seem a bit weird. So we'll think more realistically about where they'd be, and that'll be cool. So I'm gonna copy the avatar, and what I'm gonna do is this. And when we go through these profiles, anywhere that you guys mention, like, and we all feel they fit, I'll put their avatar in the corner. So we said either Taiga or Mountain Zone for Mordecai, so there he is. I think he looks very fitting on those. Looking at his avatar on those, it's like, yeah, I'm getting those vibes for sure. So, good job, Chad. All right, so I think that's it. I think he was a straightforward one. No, we didn't have to think too hard on him. And I think, like, we, you know, looking at the path, like, we're at Everbloom Forest so far, aren't we? So anybody that's like super far away isn't going to be towards a more mid or end game stage when we meet them. Anywhere that's close to the Everbloom Forest is obviously where we're going to go in the next couple of episodes, and we'll meet them a bit sooner. Okay. But we still don't know what the exact path is going to be, whether it's going to be something like this or something like that. We don't know. Wherever the story takes us, I guess. Also, I'm going to just post on World Anvil Discord and let them know that we're doing a world building stream today. Anvil streams, okay. I'm live working on a rough map draft of the world for our RPG game. Of the world for come say hi. There we go. Okay, now character 2. Character 2 is Canon. I play D&D with Canons on Sundays. He's the DM of my group, and in this game he is a knight with a punk hairstyle, so he's quite edgy for an elf. He's an edgy elf who is a knight, and he is a sort of as a character he looks to be quite an interesting one. He's a womanizer. He left his home in chaos. We don't know what it was. He's a little bit reckless, but he likes to make people smile. His goal is entertain, delighting others. So he's definitely not your stereotypical knight, that's for sure. Bit of comic relief, I guess, as a character. Bit of a jokester. For sure. So looking at him, and something we should probably consider as well is where their hometown is as well, because where they live might not necessarily be there well, where they currently are when we meet them might not necessarily be their hometown. As for the bearded guy, Mordecai, his home would probably be with where the Longbeards is, I'd say, which would be one of these places. And he might be there when we meet him, but we don't know. Things could always change, but I think it's a good thing to consider where they're from as well, because it's like, you know, they might not always be their hometown, but sometimes they might. Also, I'm going to lock this background because it just moved and shifted, and we don't want that. He looks like the type that would be in a more urban town or some sort of populated. Gotta have a place to pick up women. Very good point. You know, this is why I'm enjoying doing this on stream, because you folks are going to say things that I might not have realised, and that is true. He's very punk in his look, and you don't really see that in the more traditional places, do you? The whole look he's got is just very urban. You know, the barbers in the urban town, for example, are sort of there'd probably be a lot of people with that look in the urban area. It's almost going towards a sort of cyberpunk look. So it's definitely not your traditional medieval fantasy look. And he's a knight as well, so that's something to consider too, because knights, their jobs and their sort of duty might require them to be somewhere elsewhere, but based on his look, he definitely seems to fit probably more the urban or wasteland sort of place. If we have a look, and as for anywhere else, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for him to be at the beach. I mean, women in bikinis would be at the beach. If he's a womanizer, he could be at the beach, eyeing up the ladies. Deary me. So I'm thinking either urban or beach, based on what we've said. Sounds like you could bump into anywhere someone on the move. Yeah, and you know, like we say, because he's a knight, his mission could have took him somewhere else. He might like usually hang out at the beach, for example. But then like he for some reason he's up in the mountains because his duty took him there. So this one isn't like, this is what I mean by things aren't necessarily rigid and they could move about. But you know, it's good to have a starting point. Think about like the common spots they'd be seen. So who's with me on this, that he'd be either at the beach or the urban? Because from what Van said, we're getting urban, which I agree with because of the punk kind of look that he's got. And beach because of ladies in bikinis. And he'd be there. That's like something you couldn't say no to. Since he's a knight, would he have some sort of duty? Yes. This is what I mean. Like, because he's a knight, he's likely... We haven't developed the world building around the knights in our game yet, or the army or anything like that. We also have two other characters that were ex-veterans in the army, Azrael and Ava. So things like that, we'd have to consider their sort of backstories in regards to the army as well, and any kind of sort of group of soldiers or knights. So something could definitely take him somewhere. That is something to keep in mind, that it might not necessarily be the beach where we meet him or the urban zone. It might make more sense to meet him at the beach because it's a little bit sooner, so we wouldn't have to wait till like episode 7 to meet him as a playable character, but that will all depend. It'll all depend on if we feel like we mean way too many NPCs too early on, it would make more sense to spread some out to the west side of the world, but that'll be something to decide when we've like got everybody on the map. So I think this is kind of a cool thing to think of, at least 2 areas where they'd be from and not just one, because we might need to change or based on how everything goes. Hi Joe, how are you doing? Thank God for World Anvil Discord. I had no idea where to find other world building streamers. Welcome to stream, thanks for stopping by. Good to see you. We're making like a really rough map at the moment for our game, our RPG game. And we're thinking about where our NPCs in the game so far would probably be hanging out. And this is our World Anvil Bible, so if anyone, again, coming in wants to have a peek, there you go, if you're never nosy at our World Anvil Bible. Torlak as well, thank you for that follow, welcome to the stream. So his job might have him assigned somewhere. Who runs the army? Yes, we don't even know, Van. We have no idea. So a lot of this stuff, like in all honesty, like the Longbeards, who runs the army, all these things will probably be a question mark still, even when episode 1 is released. A lot of things, because let's face it, I'm gonna get burnt out if I make the whole game before the first episode release. But things like this are going to be fleshed out over time whenever it's relevant. You know, whenever there's a relevant spot to build a faction, because that narrative or story arc enters the game, then it's always the smartest time. And we might like consider it a little bit, like if there's a purpose to think about it. But you know, we'll probably have to read Dava and Asriel's profiles for a bit of insight there, because they were ex-army veterans. And there might be a few little bit clues in there for the army story side of things. Carol the Barrel, I know she's amazing, isn't she? Carol the Barrel, and I put up a question on our Twitter as well, just because Joe mentioned it. Would you romance a sentient female barrel NPC? And the options are yes, can't miss that, maybe, I'm curious, or nah, too weird for me. So feel free to vote, everybody, because this poll is going to tell us a lot. It's going to make me figure out who's going to be really on to romancing Carol and who isn't. And it's going to be a good bit of insight for me. Okay. Hi Raido, how you doing? It's good to see you. Welcome back to the stream. I hope work's been nice to you, Raido. Love the way you have a kind of Q&A on the character pages, gives great insight to their personality. Thanks, Joe. Yeah. Feel free to take tips from me if you've got a World Anvil. Don't mind you guys having some inspiration. Okay, so we've thought about Cannon's character. So for anyone coming in, just coming in, Raider or anybody else, what we're doing today is well, last stream we made a really rough map. As you can see, we've got a bunch of different zones here, and it's also, we can think of the bigger picture a little bit, which we don't do too often, because my style when it comes to story writing and the game development is to do the smaller picture and focus on the smaller picture in the area that we're currently in, so that I don't get sidetracked and don't get overwhelmed. That's always the way I like to do things, but I think it doesn't hurt to, for a short period of time, think of the bigger picture as well, which is what we've been doing the last couple of streams. But then after we've done this, we'll probably go back to focusing on the Everbloom Forest again. But it's going to be fun to pin everybody on a zone, because that's what we're doing. We've just placed the wizard Mordecai on where we feel he'd be from. And we've also placed Cannon, the punk knight character, where we feel he'd be from. So we're picking at least 2 places for each playable character or NPC, so that we're not stuck in one box with them and feel like we have to forever be rigid to that location. We're thinking of at least 2, just in case things need to be sort of altered and adjusted. So we've done those guys so far, and I think that's pretty cool. I think what we've figured out makes sense for those two. I watched some of the last stream and saw all of the sounds, got really excited. Yeah, it was exciting, wasn't it, Ray? So I love doing things like this, it gives me life. Today's been a mess at work, having a lot of problems with our system and a lot of calls coming. Oh no, boo. Trying to get my Monday going, but it's hard. And I'm building one, currently no specific indication of the story game's telling it, so just fleshing out the racist culture and main historical events. Awesome. And we have a Discord, Joe, so if you ever did want to share your creative stuff, feel free to, because we do have a creative work channel. Caught up in the big picture because I don't have a super focused story yet, and he makes the it can, and normally I don't like to get too caught up in the big picture because it just makes your brain go like that, because the brain can only focus on so much at a time. And although it's exciting to do now and again, sometimes you do have to get focused and focus on what the location of that you're at now, because our episode 1 in the game is we are here in this Everbloom Forest. It's the only place we've named so far, and we're like really focusing on that little area, what's happening there, the little stories going on there, the NPCs, and we're kind of not making sure that we don't like think too heavily about the other areas just yet, because the brain just melts then. But it's fun, it keeps you excited when you do like see all this. No, that's for sure. Makes the world feel bigger. There's a lot of places our characters will travel, and I think that's what we need to keep in mind while doing this. Just because we're placing characters on the map doesn't mean that they're stuck there and that's only where they'll ever be. I kind of am seeing it as where we're placing them is where they're more likely to be lurking and hanging out like most of the time in their lives. But of course their duty could take them elsewhere if there's a story reason for why that is, for sure. Of course the travel. But yes, the zones they more likely be lurking about, and is how we're sort of seeing this. Because we need a starting point at the end of the day. We need some starting point, because otherwise we're not going to have a clue where we're going to meet them. Okay, so on to the next character, which is Naomi, the diplomat. Okay, folks, so I'm going to also mention about Naomi now, because I tried to think ahead a little bit. I had a peek through all the playable characters' profiles of who would be a good fit in episode 1, and looking through everybody. Cryas, and I know that Zexion did say that he might change Cryas into being an occultist, which won't be too bad right now because we haven't done any like skill trees for him, so it doesn't matter if he needs change, and it would only be bad if we'd already like really planned his class and done all that. And the other one was Naomi, actually, because the others really didn't. And Finch was another one as well, because she's a herbalist. But the others seem to be future ones that more, because I kind of did have a think about it, and I was thinking, the others are more future ones. And I know we got a Shabu as well, the priest. And he's someone we'd probably meet early on, but he wouldn't join the party too early on, from what I'm gathering. He might be more of an episode 2 party joiner. So in that regards to that, we need to think about the ones that will be in episode 1. We'd want at least 2 or 3, probably 3. And one of them might be optional as well. But we'll think about it, because we don't want to only have 1 or 2 in episode 1, because it's going to leave way too many for the other episodes to unlock. So we want to at least have some of you've joined us in episode 1. Hi Binary, how are you doing? It's good to see you. Happy Monday. I think I belong in the underground sandwich factory because you think they're yummy and you can't resist, right? Focus on a single species for now. Yeah, good luck, Joe. I hope your story goes really well. And unlimited sandwiches. Hi Marcus, how you doing? It's good to see you as well. Super good to see you. Okay, so Naomi, like before, in fact, yeah. We might go back to Naomi just because she's the one that could have been a fit for being in episode 1. And the only reason for that is because she's a diplomat. And, you know, there's a sort of war going on in Everbloom Forest. And we might need a diplomat, you know. But she's a question mark because how she is doesn't like traditionally fit in the Everbloom Forest. She's a noble. You know, she more likely would be somewhere else, but I'm going to come back to her because she's one of the playable characters that could be more flexible and more likely to be in episode 1 out of some of the others. Like someone like Legion, for example, totally wouldn't be in episode 1. He'd totally be in the swamps. And somebody like her. So some of the others fit more for mid-game sort of characters better. But let's go back to Naomi. We'll go to Finch for now. Okay, so now she's a herbalist, guys. And if anybody was a fit for episode 1, it was this one to me, because we're in a floral, flowery forest right now that is full of herbs. What better place for a herbalist, right? So she's a fairy. She wouldn't really be welcome in like full because it's a very, very human only village, but she could definitely be lurking about the actual forest parts. But I'm curious what you guys think as a herbalist lady, where you think she would be. Her profile is very open-ended, so other than the fact she's a fairy herbalist, and she's looking for a legendary creature, by the way, that's her goal, so very open right now what that legendary creature could be. It doesn't even necessarily have to be in Everbloom Forest, that could be anywhere. It could be the other side of the world and she wants to go there, for all we know. She just feels a fit based on her class. So, well, she has trust issues but doesn't want to be isolated, so I think she'd be close to a town or somewhere. Yeah, so isolated, yeah. Everbloom Forest wouldn't be fun for her because there's not many people there, but at the end of the day, she's a herbalist. Towns, and you know, don't really have much. And I don't know if I could picture a fairy hanging out in urban. Doesn't really, not someone with her look anyway. She's very kind of, what's the word? But we gotta just be careful. We gotta like think of who's gonna be there so on, because the way we're going, if we don't put anyone in Everbloom Forest, we're not gonna have anybody in the party apart from Rose, and that wouldn't be smart because we have room for another 2 characters, and we gotta we gotta start introducing other party members soon. And honestly, there's not many that are a fit. So we've got to kind of think of who is going to be a fit for Everbloom Forest. But we can go back to Finch. We'll go back to Finch and Naomi, and we'll do the ones that we know definitely won't be in Everbloom Forest first. But yeah, maybe the fact that she doesn't like isolation could be why she wants to move away from the Everbloom Forest and join us as the hero. Because yeah, she would want to be around people. That would maybe could be an excuse for why she decides to be with us in the party, because being alone in the forest isn't really it's kind of not for her being on her own. So that could be a reason for why she'd join us, if we went that route. Yeah, but for sure. So moving on to Legion. He is very, very straightforward because he has right here in his profile the village of Dark Woods. It's kind of been established that there's a village of Dark Woods, and the only place that is even village of Dark Woods is the swamp. Because we have Everbloom Forest, which is a very light, summery, yeah. Forest definitely not dark. And then we've got a jungle, which isn't that dark. And then we've got, yeah, the jungle's more tropical. And then we've got the swamp, which is clearly the more creepy wooded zone of our game. So I'm thinking Legion's only, you know, for his story fits there best. And maybe the Tiger for a second choice. If we wanted to like have it be a forest in more of a cold zone. So I'm thinking either swamp or Tiger, a Legion. Since she's optimistic and rebellious, I can see her okay with joining the party at any point to move to another area, yeah. So, I mean, if it wasn't the case that we're stuck for characters joining us in Everbloom Forest, I would be happy to have her be in the jungle or somewhere like that that's a little bit later. But we kind of need to grab on to the ones we can that fit for joining us in the park, because we'll have nobody otherwise. Okay, so back to Legion. Yeah, so let's just have a look. I think that's really yeah, the key thing that stands out to me about him is the fact that his backstory is very heavily involved in this village of Dark Woods, and just the vibes I'm getting from that are these two zones. So I'm going to place him there. Can't see a wood being anywhere else. That is dark. Unless it was the corrupted zone, but I couldn't imagine like people living in the corrupted zone. And Legion's story involves the like deaths of a lot of people from that village, so it does have to be somewhat populated. All right. So who's next? We're going to be going back to Finch and Naomi because they're possible characters for Everbloom Forest. So we'll revisit Finch and Naomi, and we'll just go down and do the others first. Release. Okay, so she looks like very, you know, she's into her book. She is almost like a scholar. She is curious, and she wants to solve an ancient mystery. And her class is a chronomancer, which is basically time manipulation. So this character to me is somebody that wouldn't be early game, because there is something very mysterious about them, and they to me would fit as somebody that either would hang around in a more sort of higher, I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, but you know, not a slummy area basically, unless they were trying to explore ruins, because I do remember Master Emerald mentioning that she could imagine her character exploring ruins, which could be in the jungle or desert. But if we wanted her to be from a more ethereal kind of place, then maybe the floating cloud zone, if we want to think of libraries and all that sort of stuff. I could imagine a library being there. But if she's travelling and she's not in a kind of place, limited to a place and looking for ruins and investigating, then I'm kind of figuring like she could totally be looking in ancient ruins like this, which give off deserty vibes and jungle vibes. High income, more developed, yeah, high unstable and leg mark. Hi guys, but yeah, that's basically what I think. I think you've said it better than I could. She'd be in a developed area, very high class and fancy, in other words, which kind of fits for that. So I'm thinking for her, I'm going to just place her in a few areas, but a combo of her sort of style, the fact she's a scholar type who likes reading a lot of library books, the fact that she wants to solve an ancient mystery, and the fact she's like a time mage, for me, is either fitting with that vibe, or like if we wanted to be in one place and meet her at an actual place, it would be there. But if we want to meet her looking and searching in a sort of ancient ruin and exploring, then maybe here or here. So that's kind of what I'm feeling for that one out of any of them. And it all depend. She won't be getting breakfast and a pint at her local Wetherspoons then. Yeah, probably not. But I hope you're doing well, like Mark and Stable. I hope you're having a good Monday so far. Right, so let me know, folks, what you think of that. And if you want to join us looking through these character profiles, there's our lore Bible, everybody, which we've got up here, because today we're deciding where everybody's hanging out, you see, where they're likely to sort of reside and live, as well as if they're travelling, where they're likely to be travelling. So we're kind of putting them on the map. Most characters are in at least 2 places, because we don't want to limit ourselves and be like they can only be there. So we're kind of putting their faces on at least 2. Based on a mixture of their sort of style, their aesthetics, and their backstory and where it seems like they'd be hanging out. And we obviously, as for player characters, because these are all the player characters so far, we don't want to have them all in the same place, because that would mean we unlock them all and recruit too many all at the same time. So it's good to have them spread out and find and recruit some, 1 or 2 in each zone, rather than have everybody just in one place. That would be a bit much. So these locations are flexible if the story needs them to move. Of course, yeah, I'm kind of seeing this as just like a starting point, like just something where, so we can actually imagine them living in the world, because without putting them anywhere, it's almost like they don't even exist in the world otherwise, and they're not even in it. So I think just plopping them anywhere where it seemed most believable for now is a good starting point. But yeah, it's not necessarily rigid or set in stone. If their story would take them somewhere, like they have a sort of story arc and it makes sense for them to be in one of the other places, then yeah, for sure, then they can be there. Okay, next character. John the Druid. Okay, so John the Druid definitely to me fit the vibe of jungle. Looking through his profile, he's a druid. The look of him, the beads, the whole, he's like a sort of werewolf character, by the way. He's like a human who can turn into a wolf canine character. And there is quite a bit of backstory with this one, and I don't know whether the names here we'd keep, it'll all depend. But if it works, then yeah. He lives as a slave, meant that he was born humble and remains humble, catered his survival skills while on the run from the masters, which means I've no troubles. In fact, I prefer to live outdoors. So he's an outdoors guy. He lived as a slave, and there's masters. The whole sort of themes here feel like jungle to me. Shamans, druids, and reading this profile gives me those vibes. So whether there's a second choice, feel free to share if you think there's a second choice fit for this character on our map. We don't, yeah, so there we go. In regards to playable characters, we probably won't want more than 3 on one zone. But Emeralds could also be in the desert, and Legion could also be in the swamp, and that's the only place where we've got 2 characters in one at the moment. I'm really not sure, because the only other outdoorsy place that could work for John the Druid would be Everbloom Forest, but I feel like it's way too early game for a character like that to be introduced, because he's a Wolverkin, and it's like it's very fancy lore, and I would imagine we'd have met normal canines before we meet the Wolverkins. His story and development feel more mid-game level and very developed, and for that reason I feel he fits there. We might just have him there if that's the fit for him. We might not need to put him anywhere else, unless we put him in the savannah as well, because that is kind of almost like the jungle, but a little bit more deserty, so we could put him there maybe. The unnamed mushroom zone, or did you take it out? Yeah, I took it out because I didn't want to put too much on myself for Everbloom Forest. Because anything by the Everbloom Forest is somewhere I'd have to make map-wise before episode 1's release, because I'm not having invisible walls, am I? I'm gonna, like, even the Highlands and Taiga is, the fact that that's bordering the Everbloom Forest means I need to somewhat consider those maps too before episode 1. They might not be fully visitable because I might put guards in front or something blocking the path so we can't go there. I want to like do something that isn't too forced or stupid, but you know what I mean, we kind of have to, we can't, like, the world isn't fully explorable, that's by episode 1, and it's too much for me to do too soon if we start having all these areas around Everbloom Forest that are visitable. So I did delete it. It doesn't mean that we won't have a mushroom zone, and if we want to create a mushroom area of Everbloom Forest, then we can, but you know, having such deep lore is an almost like we're talking a few months of development for that character alone, and I feel like his story could be so like integrated with this area that it would be almost like we're missing an opportunity to develop that jungle and savannah area by not having him there. So I feel like he's a fit. I think it depends how they hunt. Savannah are better for stalking predators, whereas jungles are better for ambush predators. Interesting, yeah. So we could put him for either for now, and we'll figure out which one could be best for him to be from. But yeah, like a character like Finchfish's character, for example, who's a herbalist, she's like more, she doesn't have all that lore behind her, so she's easier for me to insert into the game without feeling like there's too much to have and create. Okay, next character then. Tristan, dragon tamer guy. So he's trying to find legendary creatures for summons for combat. A dragon tamer is basically a summoner that's only for dragons. So he's looking for all these different elemental dragons in the world: frost, fire, shock, poison, and wind. And he has already actually found the frost dragon, which is kind of giving me the feeling he is in the cold area. Like, it would make sense based on this bio that we meet him at the moment he's found that ice dragon. You know, he finds that ice dragon, he joins our party, and kind of fits with... He even looks, his ice blue hair very much feels like he fits in that cold area. Cold or high elevation, yeah, for sure. And I think just reading it, like the fact that, well, he's looking for frost, fire, shock, poison, wind, and the fact that it's the frost egg that he's come across in this bio just feels like it was meant to be that he would meet him there in a cold area where the frost dragon would be. Hi David, thank you so much for that host, by the way. Did I miss that? And I think you missed my message. Sorry, only reposting this twice because I'm sounding curious. You're going through all the characters and figuring out where they fit into the world. Have I missed you doing this for Poppy? Sorry for missing that, Legmog. Yeah, we haven't done Poppy yet. She's coming up, so you'll get to still see that, don't you worry. How are you doing though, Legmog? Dragons and other animals are that large, need a lot of food. I'd probably go to Taiga. Yeah, so maybe not the snow then, maybe Taiga. So let's copy this. You think Tristan's drags on Dave? You should see some of the others. Tristan's is probably one of the average ones compared to some of the profiles. Okay, we're already getting a few of them in Taiga, which we've got to be careful of that, because like I said, we don't want to be unlocking and recruiting too many party members in the same zone. So, I mean, I'm feeling we should put him in the snow as well. But we can put him in Taiga as another choice. Well, Pop is amazing. She's a great character. I already feel like we know where Pop is going to be honest, Legmog, because she's so heavily part of the Rose story. She'd either be Neverbloom Forest or the farmland. He could have found the egg elsewhere and we meet him when he's looking for the next one. Yeah, I feel I'm one of these people that think like it's more fun to show rather than tell. So I'd like to see him actually actively doing it when we meet him, or at least catch him at the end tail of doing that quest. And then we see the context of the ice dragon in battle then if we met him there. But yeah, what you say could work too if we feel like there's not a fit or something happens to stop us really doing that, then we could always meet him elsewhere and he tells us that he found it there and he's on to the next one. That's always plan B. Doesn't mean we can't move more than so long as we... Yeah, which is what I said earlier in the stream. This is just a starting point. It's not set in stone, guys. It's only so we can establish them in the world, because otherwise they're just an invisible, non-existent person if we don't put them anywhere. So it's kind of just like, where are they more likely to be at this point in time? Doesn't mean they're stuck there. But had a work meeting and no worries. But yeah, we're aware of that, so don't worry. We're aware. We're not rigid here. Things are never really set in stone. Okay. Next character then. So how far are we through? Looking at here, we're on Cryus now. And I still need to ask Zexion if he wants to be the summoner still, or whether he wanted a cultist, because he did seem torn, and it could be either at this point, but either one still gives the same vibe. So whether it's summoner or occultist, this character still has these aesthetics of like a foresty pharaoh. He's quite flexible at this point in time in terms of his backstory, but looking at him, I'm feeling forest, and I don't know, I feel like we should meet him in Everbloom, because we need to at least meet some people, and he kind of gives me vibes of that. Are these beneficial NPCs, PCs, or do we also have villains? We're only on playable characters at the moment. If you want to look, so we've got our lore Bible here, there's a character section you can follow with us. You can read the ones further ahead if you want as well, but we're doing them in order. We're focusing on PCs first. And playable characters, you know, I suppose you could see them as the heroes because they're with us, but it doesn't mean they're all going to be like holding hands and the perfect human beings. Like, there's some flawed personalities within our playable characters rota, that's for sure. But okay. Queen of England got captured by pirates, so I single-handedly boarded the ship, saved the Queen, and fired the dreaded pirate king out of the cannon, and was crowned king of the pirates myself. Same stuff, different day. That sounds like a fun adventure, Legmark. Okay, so what does everyone think about Cryus? Or a mix of good and bad. Yeah, bad is a bit, I don't know if we'd say bad as in villain, because, you know, they are in the party, but they could definitely have agendas of their own and be rather flawed individuals. And they'd have a purpose for wanting to be with us and tag along. But they're definitely not all like super good paragon hero types that hold hands together, that's for sure. They're a mixed bunch. But some of the like major villains of the game would be like just, you know, your NPCs that we haven't even like gone through yet. Every character is flawed in some way. Yeah, even the good guys need to have a flaw, because it's too nobody's that perfect, let's face it. I'm going to stick Cryos for there, but if anyone has any thoughts about him, feel free to share. I'm just thinking we need at least some NPCs, playable characters to find in Everbloom. And he was one that stuck out to me. Okay, now it is Ashari, the priest. Here he is. Okay. Now, in terms of this character, where he's from might not necessarily be where he is now. The fact that his goal is to find out the fate of somebody shows he's like on a mission. He's on a quest. And I know I've spoke to you, Van, and he will be making an appearance in episode 1, just like in small doses. So he won't be joining the party as a playable character in episode 1, but we'll have seen him wandering about. So I don't know if there's anywhere on this map that you feel he'd more likely be he'd have been, or been from, or he says he's from, in regards to his elven sort of very ethereal sort of aesthetics, if there's any that stick out to you. For the same reasons as Masked Emerald, I was drawn to the Fairy Kingdom or the Floating Cloud Zone. It's not necessarily the Fairy Kingdom. I imagine it being populated with fairies and elves mostly, because they're the more the very ethereal type of class races. Oh my gosh, I'm getting my words mixed up now. So if I was to pick a very something that fit his look, I would say the Floating Cloud Zone in terms of where he would be from. But because I imagine it being populated with elves and fairies more than any others. Because looking at anywhere else, it's all very rough around the edges, the other zones. You got it's all very a harsh way of life, harsh way of living. The farmland is very, very humble and old-fashioned, and you got the swamps and jungle, which is a very not an easy way of living as well. The beach is probably a little bit more luxury and more touristy and chill. And then these places are definitely rough, and these places are very mysterious and probably not very populated. So yeah, this floating cloud zone would be a floating city where it's probably very, very, very posh. Posh is the best word I could think of, right? Posh. My gosh, my vocabulary is limited today. I think the Badlands could work as well. The character's opinionated. It's easiest to be opinionated when you are not an outsider. Well, he travels a lot, so he's probably been everywhere, in all honesty, especially if he's on a mission. So I could imagine that he'd been in most zones. Van knows best here. But yeah, Van's agreed that he probably would say he's from there, but something has taken him to Everbloom Forest, so he's also going to be there as well. But no, he's not going to join the party then, I believe. So let's copy and paste his avatar. But yeah, just everybody travels at the end of the day, and all these characters that we place them down probably go from place to place, or have been place to place many of time, but we're just putting them where they're most likely to be, and that can be where they live, really. I see it as where they reside, rather than where they travel. And maybe the Fairy Kingdom is populated by people who want the rest of the world to think they're fairies. Yeah, Scaly Star established that law because she said that she lives in a faraway fairy kingdom. Well, she was from a faraway fairy kingdom. So that kind of really made... That was what I was thinking about when I added this zone. And exactly, not going to join the party in Everbloom, but will be seen there. So we've put him there because that's where he resides. And we'll put him here as well because that's where he's travelled to. I mean, we can always do an icon thing if we want to distinguish which one he's travelled to and which one's their home. But I think for now, as long as it makes sense. But we could use icons just for clarity. A footstep for a footprint for travelled to, and a house for home. Maybe we could do that. Who thinks that would be a good idea? Fairies could also live in the subduction zone if they're resistant to heat, or they can use the laws of lava for thermal lift when flying. Hi Met, how you doing? Yeah, the subduction zone's very, I mean, the corrupted subduction zone and the salt flats and all, they're all so mysterious that there's just so like not really much thought about them just yet, and I can't imagine them being very populated, but you know, all depends on where people's story arcs take them. I'm not going to I won't put them in those mysterious areas for the sake of it, but if like something story arc wise, you know, fits for them being there, then totally I'll have them there. This looks interesting. Hi Master Emerald, how you doing? It's good to see you. We put Emberlease down. Just going to mention to Master Emerald because her character's Emberlease. I remember you saying a while ago that you could imagine that she'd be exploring an ancient ruin on her, like, because she's looking for something. What was her goal? I need to remind myself, but it's related to finding something ancient. So I figured desert route, anything like that looks like this, would kind of be where she's hanging out to find all this ancient stuff. So either a desert zone or a jungle fits that sort of aesthetics. But in regards to where she's from, somewhere very ethereal and like scholarly and high class, a floating cloud zone. So because that would be very populated, I'd say, the floating cloud zone of fairies and elves. So where anybody like Emberlease or a Shara, or anybody that's a fairy or an elf that's very scholarly and ethereal in aesthetics kind of fits that kind of look. But it doesn't mean that we meet her there. We could definitely, because she's a PC, we could meet her on her travels, like when she's exploring ruins. So that's where we place stuff. Feel free to let us know what you think, Master Emerald. Because we're trying to figure out where everybody fits best right now. We're looking at the bigger picture today, so that we've at least considered where people's locations are in the world. I think noting where a character's visitors is fine documented in text, and probably a good idea just because they are going to get confusing for us all later with little pictures. Yeah, I'm thinking of that now because some of the icons mean live, like their home is there, and some of them mean they've travelled to. So we're going to have to distinguish between the two, I think. So maybe that will be something I do. Even the swamp could work as far as searching for ancient ruins. Yeah, I mean, Master Emerald's aesthetics would she like ever? I mean, she's an adventurer. She probably wouldn't fear going in muddy places. But she's definitely she definitely gives off those scholarly vibes. I mean, she's a time mage and she's got a feather behind her and she likes reading library books. But yes, we haven't met anybody in the desert yet, so we'll keep her there for now. But yeah, it's not set in stone. Right, next character then. Daniel the Duelist, and we're getting through the PCs quite fast now. Okay, so why isn't this refreshing? There. I don't know why it does that sometimes when it's there now. Okay. Really busy lately? I hope it's you going alright though, Master Emerald. Okay, so here, this guy's an interesting one. He looks like his Rose's like long lost twin brother vampire guy. He is also a vampire, not his class though. He's a vampire, but he's a duelist, his class, so he's got the rapier. He's very, 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 I don't know, Bloodborne aesthetics to me, this guy. That's for sure. He's very noble. Looking at his profile, he's gonna obviously fit for the Rose character story as well. So if we want to link him into Rose's character story, it only makes sense to meet him at the point where that's gonna all be happening, which is the farmlands, because that's where Rose is from. But I'm also thinking about where would he live as a noble, as a sort of human noble who is now a vampire. I was a normal human until a couple of years ago where I was struck with the curse of vampirism. Most people don't know that I'm a vampire. Azriel, oh my goodness, 13 months. Thank you. Thank you so much for the support. There's some hype in chat for those 30 months. It's a year. It's a whole year and an extra month, Azriel. Thank you. How are you doing today? Azriel, I hope you're well. He's in self-imposed exile. Yeah, so thinking of this guy is an interesting one, because I'm thinking farmland, honestly, mainly because of the character arc reasons. The fact it's a vampire, and Rose, my character's a vampire in the game too, and she was a farm girl. She was a farm girl before she was a vampire, so the character arc is going to take to finding out about that curse and all that in the farm. The farm itself could have a town that is more of a higher sort of noble sort of level as well. It doesn't necessarily have to just be like old farm huts and shacks, you know. There could be a town that gives those more, that has that sort of old English architecture, and as well the sort of like vampire, like noble vampire, like that would be from. I mean, it could be a sort of the transition point between highlands and farmland, maybe. Yeah, a rich remote mansion. So I'm kind of figuring if it isn't the farm, it could be the highlands. I mean, that's close to the farm. So if it was, because it's linked to Rose's character arc story, which happens in the farm, or will happen in the farm, should I say, then that isn't too far away as I to travel to find out more. Because if we like placed him somewhere up here, it feels like too far out, considering he's so heavily involved to Rose's story and arc. So I'm thinking farm and highlands, but yeah, definitely a mansion, that's for sure. It wouldn't be some farm shack. He's currently in the farmland, but is his family from the Highlands? Well, we're not gonna like get too like particular about it, because you know, we'll be here till next year if we develop too far. But I kind of, as a sort of brief idea, I'm kind of seeing it as his mansion is located in the Highlands, or the transition sort of point between Highlands and the farm, and he's gone to the farm to find out more, or maybe Rose goes to the farm and it leads to there. It could be either or for now. I don't like to put myself too rigidly in one box for now, so I try to just be flexible. But if I put in Highlands Mansion, if we can get a sort of aesthetic in mind, I'm going to just do a Google image search. Something like this. Well, maybe not exactly like, but you know what I'm getting at here. Old English buildings, you know. He fits that as sort of rapier wielding vampire that is noble. So those would be the sort of house, you know, that guy I could totally imagine him being from. Not necessarily that, but something similar along those lines. Fits those sort of aesthetics. All right. Transition area is good, yeah, which is why I've put him in both, because it might be the meeting point between the two before it gets too hilly and mountainous. Mick, thank you so much for that follow. How are you doing? In a tent, this guy? Never. Look at that collar on him. He would cry if he was in a tent. But of course, you know, if he's going to join us on our journey, he'd have to like being in a tent, because we're going to go everywhere. Welcome to stream, Mikaru. How are you doing? Having a good Monday. Okay, so but yeah, I'm kind of liking that it looks like they're spread out. We don't want too many playable characters in one place, because that's far too many that we'd meet in one zone. Except for Everbloom Forest, because that's going to be everywhere in episode 1, so we might need more there. Right, so now who's next? Radu is next. Okay. Now, from his profile, and there's a lot to read here, guys. I've already read it though, so I'm kind of already getting an idea for him and where he'd be. But feel free to have a sort of skim read, anyone, if you're curious. But there's two locations sticking out to me with this guy. The fact that he's lived in a forest with his love for a long time means that a forest would stick out to me as a location he'd be at, but he has moved on. He is an adventurer who's on the move a lot, so we probably necessarily won't meet him in that forest. But one key thing that sticks out to me about him is this sentence. He meets the old man of the mountain, Dave's character, where he has kind of crafted some stuff for him. So I'm kind of getting a feel that we'd meet him with the man on the mountain, perhaps, and come across him there when we meet Dave's character, perhaps. I link that into the point that we come across him on the journey. So obviously the old man on the mountain is would be here in the mountain zone. It could, like, you know, again, be the transition between the highlands and the mountain. It depends how far up the mountain he is, I guess. And we'd put the old man of the mountain here too. Or meet this one first, and that provides a means to reach the old man. Yes. So, you know, it depends, like, because the bio's worded as if it's already happened, so chances are that's already happened when we meet him. But, you know, it's adjustable if something works better. But I think, I'm thinking mountain zone and highlands with this one. Or somewhere in between the two. The transition between the two even. Okay, so I'm going to get his avatar. Was AFK? Have I missed Poppy? Nope. Poppy is still to come. I hope we can do this stream leg, Monk, because we have a lot of characters to get through, I'll tell you that. But I think we can. We've got plenty of time. I'm aiming to get everybody done by the end of the stream. Because we could meet him the way we have it set up here, if we get him in the mountains as well, is that we even meet Radu at the point where he's actually with the man on the mountain and still up there, or we meet him when he's on his way there, or when he's on his way back from him. So there could be 3 different meeting points there, and it's whatever fits best narratively with the one we go with, you know. Can help locate the old man of the mountain for the custom hero, I think. Maybe. Northern Highlands makes sense. Yeah, so, I mean, it can go either way. Whatever fits best, I guess. But yes, that could work too. Like, you can tell, Radu's character could tell us where the old man actually is, as well. Because you'd be like, oh yeah, I know that guy. He did this for me. He crafted this for me. I can tell you where he is, etc. So in that regards, we'd probably meet him around that area. And he's a traveller, so you know that's why we'd meet him on a random mountain path somewhere. But as for where he lived with Winter, it literally could be the jungle or Everbloom Forest, in regards to what the place that they lived before they moved on and carried on with their adventures. Either could fit, and it looks like, for judging from, it looks like we got a lot of fairies living in Everbloom Forest if we're going to have Cryos there and Finch's character. So it could also work that Winter lived there too. If not, if it wasn't the Everbloom Forest, then it's the jungle. So I guess it all depends what fits best with her sort of aesthetics and way of life better out the two. But either or at the moment. Okay, so we're doing well. Now, if we have a look again at our list, there's only 2 characters we haven't done, which is Naomi and Finch, because I said we'd go back to them. And the reason why we're going back to them too is because they were the ones that we might meet in episode 1, you see, folks. Because right now, we don't have anybody else other than Rose fighting for us in the party. We need to have more playable characters by the end of episode 1. We don't want to only unlock 1 in episode 1 and then unlock 7 in episode 2, if you get what I mean. So we want to get that balance right, where we we have some unlocked in episode 1 to fill up our party a bit more. But I'm kind of liking how we've done this. Like right now, we haven't got too many too far away in the end, the more mid or end game zones, which is ideal for now, because the first bunch of playable characters that we have would work as being ones that we meet in either episode 1, 2 or 3 or 4 at the latest. And any future ones that you guys will be filling in the future once the slots open again on the website would be could be more like later characters that can slot in. Okay. And let's just as well state that not every single character here of the playable ones are going to be main character ones. Some of them will be if we meet them on our path on the main quest. If their story is vital for being part of the main story arc, then there'll be ones that we unlock en route to our main story destinations. But others will be paths, part of separate side quests and optional things. Definitely got a bit carried away with the lore. My character knows it already. It's cool to have a fleshed out character as well sometimes. It's fun, and I mean there's always more of a chance of clashes happening with more fleshed out characters, but because we're so early on right now, that hasn't happened yet with anybody's character. New here, thank you for streaming. Been looking into Pixel Game Maker MV. It's 6% off for another couple of hours. Would you recommend that, or specifically RPG Maker? Hi G. I couldn't tell you actually, because I don't own Pixel Game Maker MV, so I won't be able to give an honest feedback for that one. But RPG Maker is pretty good. I think it's great for somebody who wants to make an RPG and isn't really a coder. So I recommend that one. Welcome to the stream, by the way. Hi Big, how you doing? Am I planning to play the remastered version if I get time? I don't really get time to play games nowadays. Not from to the end. I've kind of recently started playing some RPGs off stream, but I end up not finishing them due to time reasons. RPGs are a big commitment, you know. I usually get about 5 hours in and then I don't finish them. I used to be very different to that when I was younger. I'd like rigidly get 100% on every single RPG I played when I had more time. Okay. So, Finch. Now, we only have Cryas in Everbloom Forest right now. So that's only one playable character, other than the optional one, Rex, that would be unlocked, which isn't enough. So I'm going to stick Finch there as well. And Ashara is here as well, but we don't actually unlock him in episode 1. He'll be one that we unlock later, but we do see him in episode 1. I'm going to need icons to distinguish between these, I think, because it's going to get super confusing otherwise for us. Okay, and the other one was Naomi. Now she was the interesting one. She's a diplomat. I think the diplomat class is really cool, and I think it fits with the story arc we've got in episode 1. She's a human. She could work as someone who's in Lakefall. She is a noble though. We'll get her up again. So, as she would probably be from the Highlands too, in regards to where her family is living, same as the vampire guy. She definitely is fitting those similar aesthetics. The only difference is she's not a vampire like him, but he wasn't a vampire once before either. So I'm thinking she'd be from a similar part of the world as he, the Highlands just before the mountains, but she's moved on. We know that she's moved on. So she's left the household now, and she's donning a disguise, and she's travelling around the land using her skills to help those in need. She offers charm, diplomacy, and coffers, as well as impeccable marksmanship. And we know, Evelyn Forest, they need their hunters to kill these threats that they're having right now. So I'm feeling she could be a fit as somebody that we can recruit before we go into the caves. But it's still very much in the open for now, whether she'd be an optional character or whether she's someone who's part of the main story arc. I'm feeling like we need one that is part of the main story arc, because we're not going to have enough people in our party otherwise. But it's between her, Finch and Cryas for who's the next unlockable one. And it could, yeah, I'm going to put that in paint and trim it. I think Finch could be an optional one that we find. And Cryas and Naomi can be main story ones. Thanks, Francine. I'm going to look into both. I was using Game Maker Studio 2 for a while. Too much coding for me. I respect coding, but it takes away from the creative process. But that's just me. Coding is very creative. Oh, I'm the same as you, G. That's why I use RPG Maker as my engine, because I'm of the exact same opinion. I can't get my words out properly today. I've always very much wished I could be a good coder and that it came naturally to me, but it's a struggle for me too, because my mind is far more creative driven than it is mathematically driven. So yes, I can't really do it. And hi Eld, how are you doing? How's the planning progress going? Not too bad, just very much thinking and having some basic early ideas here for where the NPCs can be living in the world. So we're thinking of the bigger picture today a bit. We're thinking of the far future, and it was mainly so we could figure out which PCs would be the ones that we meet in episode 1. That's kind of the ultimate goal of doing this, so we know which of this group are the ones we meet early in this episode. And we've only done PCs so far, playable characters, so we'll move on to our PCs next. But I want to make sure we've got a good balance here of playable characters, and they're spread quite well right now before we move on to NPCs. Okay, so I'm actually going to move Asharu down here because he's not recruitable in episode 1. I'm going to put the ones that will be recruitable at the top. Either way, I already love her based on that description. She sounds awesome. She does. I think she's absolutely brilliant. I think I love the idea of having a diplomat class in the games. I think it could fit well. And be really unique and interesting to think of some skills for, to be honest. So I've kind of felt she fits this early game introduction well. She fits into the plot well based on where the main quest is going right now as a diplomat, and the fact that there's 2 races at war with each other. I mean, having a diplomat there kind of works for that. And as for the other two guys, they fit aesthetically in this zone. One of them's a herbalist, you know, in a forest, lots of flowers, lots of herbs, fits. The other one's either going to be a summoner or a cultist, and that's very fitting with what we've got going here as well in Everbloom Forest. So definitely these guys are the best fit for being that we meet in this zone as playable characters. And looking at the others, I think we've got people in the right places. I'm thinking like, because these are so far out, too far out to have them join the party, I think, these ones. So that's definitely where they live, not where we meet them, well, where they're born, should I say. That's where they're born. And same with this guy. That's where he's born, I guess. And I can imagine having him at the beach as someone we meet there fits because, you know, feels like a good, nicely spread out that way. I'm gonna keep Tristan in the snow zone because I think we've already got potentially enough to meet in the Taiga zone, and we need somebody there. I think that's looking alright. Coders are also very creative, just working with abstract spaces with constraints imposed by mathematical detail. Yeah, it depends what sort of creative mind you have. Mine's just not being good with the math side of things at all. Terrible with numbers and formulas and all of that stuff. I am. Okay. Right, I'm going to get I think I want to do some icons before we move on to the NPCs because it's going to get super confusing otherwise. So, the icons that we might need, home, travelling, and I think that's it for now. So I'm going to look for I think this one will do. Hopefully this is a proper PNG. They always do that, PNGs do, for some reason, when you copy and paste them. So I'm going to have to save it instead, because it just appears as a black square. But this will just keep things a little bit more organised for us, and we'll understand what things mean. Oh no. It's not saving as a PNG, it's saving as a WebP file. It's not what we want. Right, so what about this one then? Yep, we got one, that's a PNG. So we'll do this one first. Maybe white. Okay, decided to not copy the lifestyle over. Okay. So that might be a bit big still, we'll see. Yeah, probably a bit big. Right, so that's not their home. Right, so the ones that have their home would be we might have to just pick one place now for each character because it's getting confusing seeing them in two spots. But just remember, it's not necessarily set in stone. Like, they could switch between a transition if we feel the plot's better for him to be there. So I'm feeling Highlands just simply because if he's going to live in a noble mansion that gives like very old English vibes, then it might be more fitting to be there. I can always move him a bit lower to indicate the transition period, I guess. I don't want to merge those layers though. There we go. Okay, so that's their home. I hope we can see that icon properly. Can we put an outline around it? It's a bit better with an outline. You can see it's a house a little bit more. I mean, it's hard to like set his home in the urban zone too. I mean, he's a knight, you know. it's hard to set a lot of these in stone. So I'm going to delete him from the urban zone, but we can keep in mind that he'd fit in there, or all that. So actually no, we'll keep him there, but we'll change that to a travelling icon actually. And we can say that he's either travelling to the urban zone or the beach zone when we meet him. As for Himes, for anyone else, okay, I think that's fine. We'll just have the home icon on the ones that have got the home. Going to get a bit confusing for us, but we're going to have to just accept it, because if we spend too long being all tidy about this, we'll be here forever. But it's good to at least have an idea for now. I'm going to just save this as a PSD file. Because I'm going to want the layered version in case we want to move people about. I was thinking before that the area the Highlands ended up would be a good place for a mansion murder mystery plot, though if only we get one murder mystery or want to decide between that and the city or even the beach. Yeah, you know, it very much mansion. I'm glad that you get that vibe as well, Matt, because when I was thinking of that this vampire guy, and the fact he's a noble duelist vampire, I mean his aesthetics are just so much, you know, mansion in the Highlands kind of aesthetic, very old English, and I think a murder mystery would be really a cool plot, a cool story segment of the game for sure. The capital with a high profile political assassination. Yeah, and as for the capital, we haven't decided yet because we haven't put the king and the PM in a spot yet. But you know, I think there's something sticking out to me about the capital though. I'm thinking it could be around the Highlands as well. I know we said the swamp, but that could be where their bases are. Like, you know, their raindrop facilities and stuff to collect the raindrops, but the swamp is very much gives me the aesthetics of underground lab, the underground amusement park and the sandwich factory stuff, like very, very spooky, mysterious, and lots of weird stuff going on, rather than a populated place for a capital. But it would be nearby the capital. Or even the beach, yeah. I think the city, is it, if you mean the urban zone, is more of a gritty kind of thing. Probably not so much murder mystery. But I mean, I'm with you. We'd probably only want one so we don't get too repetitive with our plots. So we can explore different things. I'm kind of feeling, you know, the Highlands zone would be cool for it though, the murder mystery. The beach is a little bit chill for a murder mystery, maybe. A little bit, that's the nice relaxing downtime of the game, maybe, but not necessarily. Even trouble can happen at the beach. But based on what we're building, yeah, it's definitely fitting for the Highlands if we want to do that. Government assassinations are cool though, for sure. All right. Okay, should we move on to NPCs? I know I was in the middle of doing some icons, but I've kind of given up. I've put the icons on the ones that show where their home is, and I think that just distinguishes the ones that are living in a certain area rather than travelling. And some could be both, like for example these two fairies could live there and be, you know, but okay, cool. NPC time. I think I'm all right with the positioning of these ones though. I think so. Law, yay! Zeva's looking at a law baba. Yeah, feel free to click that link, folks, if you want to follow along with our character shenanigans today and where we're going to position them. But yeah, this way what we've got here leaves us with 3 more playable characters to unlock in episode 1, which I think is smart because so far we only have Rose. Just one party member for the rest of episode 1 somehow feels a little bit too little. So some of these, maybe one of them is optional and the other 2 are part of the main story arc. And then we got Rex's character who's an optional one as well, and he's going to get added to here too. 79 on the leaderboard, GG. Okay, so back to the Law Bible, folks, and we've gone through everybody. I don't think we've missed anybody off, which is good because we don't want to miss anybody. Yeah, we've gone through everyone. All right, now we'll go through at the NPCs in order. We'll start with all the rulers and leaders. So we got 4 rulers and leaders in the game, and sorry about the slight dropped frames there that we had, guys. It's all good now though, I think. Did we place the cat boy? Who's the cat boy? Azrael? Azrael the cat boy, is that who you mean? He's an NPC, so we haven't quite got to him yet. We've done all the PCs so far. We're on to NPCs now, but Rex is kind of a hybrid of both NPC and PC. Because he's an optional playable character, so not everybody's going to get this one. But I thought when Rex suggested it to me ages ago, like months ago now, I thought it'd be pretty cool to have an antagonist join us as an optional party member if we sympathised with the reptiles and their cause. So we know where this guy is because we've already kind of talked about his story arc. He's in Everbloom Forest because that's where all the war stuff is happening with the reptiles and the humans. So there's no other place that he is. I'm gonna put him. I'm trying to figure out where to put him actually, because he is going to be part of the playable character crew, but he's also part of the NPC crew too. I'm torn whether to put him next to Asharu or whether to put him here. I'll put him next to Asharu for now because he's a very hidden PC. His purpose is mainly to be an NPC, really. Okay. Next one. King. Now this is where we think about the capital, and I was thinking about this over the weekend. To be honest, it was something I was actually thinking about. And one thing we do know about King Dolos and the Prime Minister is that they work together. He met the apathetic King Dolos and he offered me lodging in exchange for my services as a fortune teller. Seeing the king's inaptitude, I steadily leveraged my position higher to better help all those across the realm. Years went by and I am now Prime Minister of the kingdom, overseeing the day-to-day business of ruling, so His Majesty may focus on more important affairs. Okay, so they would be in the same zone. The government headquarters would probably be separate from the castle though, but they're like nearby. Hi Rose, I've been lurking, just relaxing and doing some meditation. Oh, thank you for the lurk, Oracle. How are you doing? I hope you're having a good one. So in regards to the location of the capital, I'm going to tell you my thoughts on this one, folks. it's not going to be somewhere that's not very populated, let's be honest. So you can count out these areas on the east, all these areas at the far north. So it's we're looking here. It's obviously not the Everbloom Forest. It's too isolated and tribal and humble. The farmland would be a little bit too humble as well for a king to be living. The beach is a little bit too touristy, I'd say, for a government and king to be living. The swamp was the first choice because of its like wetness, high rainfall, etc. But it's a little bit too creepy in vibes to have, I'd say, a castle and government headquarters. But I'd say that their bases would be that, like all their underground labs and raindrop facilities would be in the swamp. And I think it makes sense for the castle to be in the sort of transition or area next to the swamp, if that's where all their labs and raindrop facilities are, and their main bases. So I was thinking of like the Highlands, because again it fits with the whole old traditional setting, you know, for the same reason why we place this noble vampire there, because of the mansion. A castle would have that same kind of thing as that. What trade routes pass through the capital? Well, that's something we can discuss. We only know so far that there's a trade route between Everbloom Forest and the farmland. They sort of trade. The farmland give their crops to Everbloom and their fruits in exchange for wood and all their goods. Because we actually had a flashback scene on a wagon that was going away from Everbloom Forest to the farmland, and they kind of go to and from each other. So we know that there's a common trade route there. That's what established them as being next to each other. And you know, there's obviously going to be that with the capital too. So that's something to think about as well. I think it's smart to bring that up so we can talk about that and think about that. What trade goods are important to the people in the capital? Well, everything is, isn't it? But you know, the government, they're definitely there's definitely a lot to think about in regards to them. I mean, they're greedy. They're distributing the raindrops, which is the currency of the game, to apparently fairly to different banks in different regions. So, but are they? That's the question. Seems that way, but you know that it might not be like that for sure. But we haven't even thought of trade routes for the capital, because I've only just now the second thought that perhaps the Highlands is a good place for the capital to be. I'd say the higher up you go up the mountains, the more less populated it gets. So you've got the Man of the Mountain and the Longbeards up there, maybe. And there's more like towns and people living lower down. I think the Highlands are a good location. In addition to have a local quality of mineral goods, the mountains would provide minerals. Everbloom provides woods and medicine. Farms provide food and swamps provide medicine. Yeah, I think like looking at it, because it's in the centre of everything, like you've got all these regions around it, the beach, the farm, the forest, the taiga, the mountain and the swamp. You could definitely get a decent bunch of resources from all of those. That would be traded and exported and imported and things. So yeah, I think we're on to something now. It definitely feels like the wisest and most believable location for it to be, because as soon as you start going further west, the more gritty and the more harsher way of life it is in these parts of the world. And it's kind of like they've been left behind almost the further west you go. I mean, we've got an urban zone, but it's probably really criminal there. It's not going to be a nice town. The nice town is going to be the Highlands. That's going to be the nice town, where there's rule in place and everything's more higher class. But you've got all the sort of criminals probably in the urban zone because it's next to the wasteland. And I might I mentioned that the currency, the raindrops, are probably fairly distributed between these areas, but probably the further west you go, maybe the government have neglected them and left them behind from that side of the world because it's just so far out for them, so they're only kind of helping those nearby. I think judging from what we've got here and how everything looks, it could kind of work like that. And successful capitals have built good transportation and serve as effective traders, which is also important to support such a large population which doesn't provide essential goods. And plush trade in the west would centre around the urban zone. Yes, so it's more like maybe they're more government free here on the west, and anybody who is a ruler in the west is like from the urban zone. Like they've kind of got their own leadership and own criminal bosses and who have kind of took over and are ruling things here. So other factions that aren't the monarchy and the government are kind of so we got it's almost like there's two different ways of life in this world, and it's kind of interesting having that divide. It's horrible having that divide, but it's also interesting for us as creators and story writers. Or better stated, concurrent trade grows, an urban zone creates and grows. So that's something to think about too. And I know that in regards to the story writing and world building that we do here, it's going to be not for a long time to come yet. Like the other half of this decade, probably we won't be seeing this area too. But for the next 2 to 3 episodes, it's going to kind of all be centered around here and this area here, and these far out places will be where we go later on. So we'll put the king there. We'll have to put a home icon next to him, I guess, as well. And the Prime Minister as well will obviously be in the same place. But he probably might travel around more, the Prime Minister, than the king does. I could imagine the king is probably stuck in the castle and doesn't get out much. But the Prime Minister, he's clearly up to stuff, meets a lot of people, does things, socialises, has his own nefarious ambitions. So although he's got the government base, he's probably next to the castle where the king is. He might move around more, probably goes to the swamp now and again and to other parts of the world. So we'll put him there next to the king. The Roman Empire split into 2 empires down similar lines. Interesting. If you've got any good reference links, Unstable, about this kind of stuff, feel free to send it over, because it's always good to be educated and learn and be inspired. Does the Sky place trade much, or is it too isolated? That good question, Matt, because we can't forget them either. I guess the sort of whole picture here, looking at the world, we have 3 main kingdoms, I guess. I don't know if you can call the urban zone a kingdom, because it's far from that, but you get what I'm getting at. 3 main population hubs, which is the Highlands, which is where the government and king are. the urban zone, which is like the criminal, rough way of life, the gritty, populated place. And then you've got the very far away, dreamy, ethereal, floating city where all the exotic races live. And the government there is probably separate as well, because Scaly Star's character actually set that in stone in her character profile. She is the daughter of a king from a faraway fairy kingdom, which is clearly this place. So they've probably got their own rulers them as well. And we haven't made profiles for that fairy king yet, because he's not a community character. He's just a character that was created from somebody else's character. So those people won't have profiles until they're actually in the game, when we actually start doing them. Yes, that's probably separate too. They're floating in the air, you know. It makes sense for them to be independent of what's below them, because they're not a part of it really. And we've got the corrupted zone below them as well. And I really loved that lore idea you had met last stream, where this block of land is the reason why this land is corrupted, because it's a shadow above them, and it's probably stopped raindrops getting to them as well. So, you know, I mean, the desert itself probably doesn't get much rainfall because it's so dry, but even the desert in some seasons might get its downpours. They've got to just make the most of it when they do, whereas this corrupted zone probably get nothing at all because of the flying cloud zone like covering it up completely. And it's they probably might just throw all their trash and waste down below as well, and that's probably not helped as well. That's like an awful place to visit. Definitely an end game zone, that's for sure. To be honest, I imagine the whole floating cloud and corrupted zone part of the game being end game, as well as all this stuff probably just slightly before endgame. The Western Urban Zone could be the congregation of the floating city's social rejects. That's an interesting way to see it too, like people who that committed crimes or didn't have a place in the world left and naturally moved on to the urban zone and kind of just settled in that very, very, very rough way of life. But I imagine there'd be quite a few factions that have made their mark in that urban zone, because if they haven't got a government or leadership, they'd have created it themselves, and that's why we'd have a lot of crime lords there and factions that are not up to no good, taking advantage of people, I'd say. And I imagine the Oracle character would be in an isolated, hard to reach place. Thanks for giving your thoughts with that Oracle, because it'll help a lot for us when we place him around. I imagine he travels, the Oracle, because I know from reading the bio you've said he goes on travels and stuff. I'm wondering where he'd more likely be from, because I know you mentioned that his birth was a curse and all that sort of thing, so I am wondering what his origins were in regards to the location of his birth, like what sort of zone would fit that for him. But as for where he'd be, I definitely imagine a traveller. But if something specially springs up to mind, Oracle, about your character, about where he'd be, feel free to say out of all these locations, if there's anything in particular. Or even if there's a few, because we can put him in a few places, because we put some characters in more than one location, because there could be in any. Hi Trubaldi, how you doing? It's so good to see you. How have you been? Hope you're well. Hope you're having a good week so far and had a good weekend. Always lovely to see your face. The Oracle could be in the subduction zone, the Oracle of Delphi, as a local source of hallucinogenic vapours from a geothermal vent. Interesting. Yeah, if Oracle imagines him being in a hard to reach isolated place, then these particular areas here definitely spring to mind. The areas of the north are definitely the least populated places in our world. the snow zone, the salt flats, the subduction, the corrupted zone. But even the snow zone would probably have its little snow villages strewn about. So I'd say predominantly the corrupted, subduction and salt flat zone will probably be the least populated ones. But you never know, the salt flats might have a settlement. I mean, we'd have to think. I don't know if it would, but I very much like keeping these areas at this part of the world very open-ended. I don't want us to world build them too heavily, because it's fun to have things to look forward to as well in regards to areas. But sometimes we might like have a little conversation about them now and again and gather some ideas, because it's nice to have some ideas for the future as well. His powers are more magical in nature. He could have been born in the farmland zone only to be whisked away. Interesting. Yeah. So, yeah. For sure. I imagine the Oracle being a character that could be absolutely anywhere, you know. He's a wanderer, he travels, and his adventures would probably take him to a lot of these places. And how are you in chat doing today? Not too bad, True Baldy. The stream's gone really quick as always. We're building our world. We're getting on well, aren't we? Okay, so next NPC. So we thought that, yeah, the capital would be here, and I think that's really cool. I think it's pretty much the smartest place for it to be, and most believable. And now we found that we've got ourselves 3 main hubs in our world, and they're nice and separated as well. Like, we've got one in the east, one in the west, and one like high in the sky. So, you know, in terms of trade and exporting, those hubs that do it to all their nearby areas. But I could imagine the floating cloud zone are quite greedy, quite selfish, and have everything for themselves, and they've definitely neglected the corrupted zone. Maybe not purposely, but it's happened. And I'm curious how they'd get their goods, you know, considering they're so out there and nobody, they're very isolated from the world, the floating cloud zone. I'm gonna have to read up about cloud cities and figure out how they go about their ways of life. So it's a very interesting type of city, that's for sure. Back again, Scanshitzy Poppy's been done yet, going on about it. I'm so happy that you're so excited about her. I am too, like Mark. But she's gonna, I mean, I'm pretty sure Poppy's gonna be in Everbloom or Farmland, one or the other, because she's obsessed with Rose, right? She's her stalker and doppelganger. So Rose is here right now, so she's gonna be close to her. She's gonna be frigging keeping an eye on her and making sure she's not far from her number 1 fan. So she's gonna be here, that's for sure, which makes her an early game character, either somebody that shows their face in episode 1 and becomes more predominant in episode 2, or, you know, definitely that, one or the other. Aerial gardens, aquaponics. Does the Sky Zone have airships? Maybe. I kind of like keeping it open-ended for now, like, so keeping things as a maybe in regards to what it's going to be like. But, you know, if that works, if there's a reason for it and it feels like a necessary inclusion, then yeah. Because how else would they get down to earth? I suppose. I suppose jumping from the edges into the clouds wouldn't result in a good way. So they probably need airships. And Oracle living in the subduction zone, where they practice a side job of modelling for perfume commercials. You might not see the future like me, but you can smell like it. LOL. Don't you think the subduction zone is beautiful though? I mean, I know this was just a concept art piece, but looking at it, I want our subduction zone to be very similar to it, because I think it's really beautiful. It's a nice way to make lava look pretty, putting some pink trees and nice fluffy clouds around, because just rocks and lava can look very ugly and not appealing to the eye. So I'm very inspired by that image. And airships can greatly alter the power dynamics. Yeah, definitely something to consider for sure. Okay, so who are we on to next in our lore Bible? And I'll give you guys the link to the lore Bible in case you all want to follow along with us. And over time these character profiles will get expanded upon, because I know some of them are very brief at the moment, but we'll be expanding on their profiles probably when they enter the game, because then we'll have like sort of developed more of them then. So Lobos is next. Now Lobos, I'm very sure I know where he's going to be hanging out. The urban area. There's just absolutely no doubt. He's a crime lord, right? He's the boss. He rules the most dangerous thing in the underground, the fighting pits. Only the most vicious and bloodthirsty people face each other there, and they duel to the death. So we've got a sort of fighting pits that will resemble an old giant gladiator arena, and they're located deep underground, and fighters will compete against each other there for the title of champion. And this dude is the boss of all that. It's very, very gritty, very, 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 very urban feels I'm getting from this one. And he lots of violence. He's born from a human and a beast. He's a hybrid race, so he does like helping the poor and other outcasts, which I imagine there'd be a lot of poor in the urban area. He wants to remove hatred between humans, beasts and monsters, no matter the cost. And he wants to be in full control over the criminal world and crush anything that brings harm to his plan or disturbs it. So he's like one of the crime bosses and leaders from that west part of the world, I'd say. He just very much fits that. Okay, hi folks, I see that a few of you have come in. Let's say hello. Hi Adval Kit, welcome. Getting those raindrops, I see. Oh wow, look at you, Brady. Nearly in the top 20. Prime Minister Traitor, nice name. Is this guy by chance a traitor? Yes, Legmog. It's a great name, isn't it? Very funny. Very, very in with our sort of humour in Raindrop Chronicles, that's for sure. Hi, Coro, welcome to the stream. Yeah, feel free to ask a question. Welcome, welcome. And the subduction zone would have quite a bit of vegetation, but not much old growth vegetation, yes. For sure. Do you believe the universe is finite or infinite, or maybe even some third option? I believe the universe is infinite. I think it's very, very possible that it is. I believe that, us on planet Earth, we shouldn't be so arrogant to think that we're the only life in the whole universe. It's a huge, huge, huge thing, space is endless. So let's get Lobos's avatar on the page now. We could have him near the sandwich factory because fighters always need sandwiches. Have the arena nearby the carnival. Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that, Van, but one thing I'm thinking of that might go against that is the fact that the swamps are quite an unpopulated, left behind place. Like, I think one thing we did say was that the government like having their base in the swamps because there's not many people around. And not many people there to disrupt what's going on. But the thing with the fighting pits, there's going to be a lot of people. It's going to be very highly populated if we start having champions, and Lobos very much intends to make a lot of money from his fighting pits by having as many people as possible there. So that could clash with the idea of the swamps being a more mysterious, left behind place. So he fits with the whole very highly population urban area because of that, in my opinion. But you know, we can't forget about the sandwich factory. I love it. You guys love it so much, and I don't want to. I want everything to be about the sandwich factory. He does seem to be either an urban or wasteland character. Yeah, the sandwich factory and carnival would have a lot of people. You think? Yeah. See, I felt it would be abandoned. I was getting the sort of vibes of an abandoned theme park and sandwich factory with very, very little people, kind of to like enhance the mysterious vibes of the place. Because the more people that are around, the more noses that sniff and find things they shouldn't, and I'm not sure the government would like that, especially someone like a Lobos kind of character, because he's very on the ball. Lobos is very aggressive, he's very ambitious. He would freaking overthrow that government in a second, wouldn't he? Yeah, I imagine imagining it now, if Lobos was somebody that lived in the East, I don't think the government would stand a chance for long. They'd be toppled down in no time, because he's freaking dangerous, you know, just looking at him. He's very ambitious. So I can imagine him being a very dangerous character in the West, in the urban areas that we've got. For sure. Doesn't mean that he won't ever come to the West, though. If something brings him to the sandwich factory, then why not? If it fits story-wise. But as for the whole gladiator old kind of champion thing we've got going here, it just feels like it belongs in the urban zone. And the fight pit coincidentally also nicknamed the sandwich factory because you get sandwiched between the other fighters. Yeah, so it's just me. Like I definitely get what you guys are thinking. Like we're thinking with the whole carnival and you might be imagining it being populated, but I had an opposite vision of it being like deserted and like left behind and abandoned. And I think because it's an underground amusement park as well, it kind of makes that more feel abandoned and left behind. Because I really think the one cool thing about the swamps is that it's eerie and mysterious, and I kind of really want to keep that dark, kind of eerie vibe for one of our zones in the game, rather than bring too many people in it and kind of destroy that eerie vibe we've got going. Lobot, like I said, if something fits, I mean, we don't know. Van might have an idea here, because from what I'm thinking, if something brings him here, then fair enough. But I could imagine his kind of location and home being in the urban zone rather than the swamps. I just can't imagine. I just struggle to imagine such a strong, ambitious character like Lobos even standing a chance of living in this part of the world where it's so government ruled, and he doesn't fit with that kind of way of life. A guy like him would just be executed in no time, or he'd like just attack the castle. So we'll keep him there for now. Right, now we've gone through all our leaders now, haven't we? I think so. So back to the Law Bible. Knuckles Sandwich Factory. I do love the Sandwich Factory though, folks. I have to say, I think I'm pretty very set on the idea of the amusement park and the sandwich factory and the lab being in the swamps and having like this real mysterious sort of feel about it all. Okay, now we're on to the townspeople and traders. So we're getting through them. I would really like to do them all today, but I don't know if we will, but let's see. Okay, I will try and get through them all before the end. We might have time. Otsuyu, she's a brothel leader, so I'm not going to dilly-dally now. We'll get onto it quicker and get everybody placed quicker. So she's a brothel leader. She owns brothels, a chain of brothels throughout the world. So this lady would probably be just go to and from her brothels more than likely. She's probably not doesn't stay at one particular one for too long. And we got to think about where those brothels would be. She'd probably have one around the farm and highland zone, especially if we're going to have there's going to be a farm town and there's going to be a capital as well, so she might even have 2 brothels there. She might have a brothel in the snow zone too, where there's a snowy town maybe, and perhaps even a brothel on the beach zone. It took lots of tourists, money for her if there was a brothel at the beach. I mean, if she was brave enough, which she definitely is, she might even put a brothel in the urban zone as well. And where I don't know if there'd be a brothel in the flying cloud zone, or whether they'd be sort of not really for that sort of thing there. But there's definitely a few branches that could be around. I'm trying to think where we'd first meet her. Probably the beach or the farmland, I'm thinking, is more her kind of the aesthetic for where she'd hang out more. But it could be any. It could be she'd go to and from all her branches. But let's think of the first one, where the first one would be. So if there's going to be a first one, there's not going to be a brothel in Everbloom. Probably not. But because I don't think Everbloom is populated enough for her to considered having one of her buildings there. So she'd probably have put her first one in the farm zone. There's probably there's probably a humble town there, but larger than Everbloom and more and definitely more populated, that's for sure. I lulled at that one. Hi Traybot, how are you doing? But it's a good pun. There could be a fit for him. I mean, like I said, Lobos is the sort of guy that might travel around the world, but he's probably passionate about his fighting pits. But it's just, I really struggle to imagine a guy like that anywhere close to the government. He just wouldn't stand much chance, or vice versa. Right, so next character, Lavender. Right, pretty easy with this one as well. Neko girl. She's a thief and a con artist. My family owns a live livestock farm just a short distance from town. So she's from the farm. I think that's pretty straightforward. So she is from a family of cats that will, Neko cats that will be in the farm. One thing to know about this character is that they are at school. There's a college, so there's going to be a school in our farm area. I think that's pretty interesting. There's kind of a merge of modern life mixed in with our medieval thing here, and I'm not, I find that thing kind of fun. So it'd be fun thinking of what the schools would be like in a farm, like how education would work in this kind of world as well. So she'd be in the farm zone. Oh, thank you for that info, Unstable. What I'll do is I'll copy and paste that into my notes when I look through the VOD after, and that'll probably be handy to know. Okay, so that's done now. Use is our next character. Merchant guy, a reptile merchant. Okay. Now this guy could be in the Everbloom Caves as a merchant for them, but the only thing that's springing to my mind is the fact that would he be a fit for there as his character? But we'll put him there for now, but he could also be a merchant anywhere. But he's green scales give him the forest vibes, because we are kind of basing our reptiles locations on their scale colour. So if they're green, they'd be more forest type reptiles, and if they're brown or sand coloured, they'd be in the desert. And if they're blue, they'd be in the mountains maybe. But so that could leave Juice for being either in the Everbloom Forest or the Jungle Zone, I think. Either one or the other. I think it could be a fit for either, so it's whatever works best for him. Okay, so I'm trying to get through these profiles a little bit quicker because I want us to get it done for the end of the day. Jack is now he's a merchant too, doggy merchant, and he's like a little bit more. He's got a suit on, a tux. He might be a travelling merchant, but if he isn't, if he's going to reside in a particular place, we'll pick the one that he's more likely to be in, or where we'd meet him first. Maybe in the capital. He looks a bit too dressed up, a bit too scrubbed up to be in the farm maybe, and the beach would be a bit sweaty for him. The jungle and swamps would be a bit too as well, a bit too so I'm thinking he could be a fit for being a merchant in the capital, or along the Highland roads perhaps. Okay, next one. My gosh, I'm hungry. I'm definitely ready for my dinner soon. Oh, have we already done all the townspeople and traders? Yes, so we're on to the more adventurers and drifters now. Okay, we've still got about a dozen to get through. I think we can do it. So this is Bucko. This is Chubcheek's character. Is a reptile, a purple reptile who is armoured up, and he is very ambitious. He wants money, and he definitely is a very power hungry reptile guy. The fact he's armoured gives him this intimidating look. He's very part of the main arc of our game, where he's trying to get raindrops obtain raindrops illegally. And now his location's a bit of a mystery right now, because he's pretty much the first real antagonist of our game. And it's going to take us to wherever Carol the Barrel's family are, because he's behind their kidnapping. There's a bit of lore and backstory all with this guy. He's the antagonist involved in the spell of the Everbloom Forest. If you've read the Lore Bible, then you'll get all that, or if you've watched our lore video on YouTube. And he literally is so mysterious that he could be anywhere, and I don't really want to set him anywhere because we don't know at this point in time where he's hiding. But I want to think about where he was from, at least, and where he spent his life before he became ambitious. He's a purple reptile, so thinking of his colouring, it wouldn't surprise me if he was born under like really like weird ways in the corrupted zone. But that's still a question mark at this point in time. He could have spent his life wandering around the Badlands and Wastelands and seen and like wanted more for himself. Chubcheeks did write a short bio about him, so I'm sort of getting that sort of feeling that he spent his life in the rough parts of the world, and became resentful that they got left behind, and he became greedy and wanted more for himself because of that. So I'm thinking he could have come from around this part, but then started to live here. So I'm going to keep him there for now, but it isn't necessarily where he is now. So I'm going to put a home, the icon next to him, so we know that where he is now could be different. He could literally be anywhere right now, so I'm not going to consider that too much at this point because we don't want to set that in stone just yet. Not just yet, anyway. It'll come clear to us in time where he is. Okay, so next character. Alright, so she's a human and she is fragile and gets emotional. She has a dark form that guides her, but it doesn't act in her best interest all the time. This character to me really fits a sort of human from Everbloom Forest vibes because of the fragility. I mean, not only is she a human, where it's popular to that, but she's fragile, and people from the Everbloom Forest are anxious and fragile because of what's going on at the moment in Everbloom Forest, which if you've been to our previous streams, you'll know what that is. Whole things coming to life in the forest and things like that. So she could be a fit for an NPC that's living in Lakefall, but she could also be one that is from the farm as well, if we wanted to bring her in a bit later, if there wasn't a fit for her just yet. So it could be either. The dark form that often guides her is an interesting one. That's for sure. Considering there are mysterious creatures in the Everbloom Forest, that could tie in with something to do with that. Or it could tie in with the murder mystery idea that we had for happening in the farmlands and the highlands. So it's whatever either works best for the plot. So I'm thinking either her being a human villager in Lakefall or somebody that lives in the farmlands. She's like sort of, she's not dressed too posh. She's not really got anything posh on. She's not got a gown on or anything, so I'm thinking she's more of a humble sort of girl. Hi Comic Girl and DQ, how are you guys getting on? It's good to see you both. Gonna hang out here for a bit. Thanks for stopping by. It's always good to see you. Someone gave you a sub. Yeah, that's lovely. I hope you're enjoying the double raindrops and the emites. I've got some very kind people in this stream. That's for sure. for gifting those subs to you. So yeah, we're getting through these characters a bit quick because I want to get them all in before the end of the stream. Joe Boy, okay, comical personality, brings fun to the hero's travels, shares same goal as the heroes. He's secretly related to one of our enemies. Maybe he's Traitorio's son. I mean, he's a human, so he's got to be the son of a human enemy. I could imagine him being the son or the brother of someone who's evil in the government. So that could work for his character, and if that's the case, which definitely seems to be a fit right now, he could also be from around that area, the farmland or the highlands. And because they're such populated areas, you know, having a few NPCs there is going to make sense. And I'm thinking of putting them here rather than towards the wasteland, because not that they wouldn't have a fit there. Someone like Joe Boy could also work in the wasteland zone or the urban zone. But I think is worth considering as being related to one of the government people. I think something could work there, so I'm gonna plop him there for now. Or the farm, one or the other. I think there's potential there when I read that line about him secretly being related to one of our enemies. How's the game going? Not too bad, DQ. We're thinking of the bigger picture this week. We're like making a rough map of the whole entire world and placing our current community submitted NPCs on the map where we think they'd live or have travelled to. So we don't do this often. We don't usually think of like the whole bigger picture too much. I usually just focus on what we're doing in the now, like the small section of the world that we're currently in. And sometimes it doesn't hurt to plan ahead, or at least consider the bigger picture now and again. Okay. So next character, oh my goodness, it's Pung's character, Elandra. She is a lady who wanders forests of the world and protects innocent creatures and cares about trees and plants. And she travels from place to place. So she's going to be in Everbloom Forest, obviously, because that's a forest and she's a forest lady. She just fits that completely. Though she doesn't she's not committed to staying in Everbloom Forest. She probably wanders, which means that she's somebody who we're probably going to see in other forests too. So because of that, we're going to put her there. In Everbloom Forest, and we're also going to put her in forests that she also would be in as well. Anywhere where there's wildlife and nature, she would be. In fact, yeah, well, I'm going to move NPCs to the bottom row and playable characters to the top row so we don't get confused. So because of that, I'm actually going to move this guy up here next to Radu. I'm going to move the King and the Prime Minister down here. Because we'll just get confused by who's an NPC or playable character otherwise. So some people's avatars are in two places at once, and that's because we they could be in either. Or both, either or both, basically, whatever fits best for them. So yeah, those are the forests that Kung's character would be part of. I mean, she could be in the Taiga zone as well, because that's kind of still a bit foresty. So we put her there too. Okay, next character. Looks like a lot of the people are set out. Yeah, Vanna, my mission is to make sure I'm getting everybody in before the end of stream. So I'm going at a bit of a faster pace now because I want to get everybody in before the end. So luckily it's quite straightforward with some of these NPCs because it's already established that location in their profiles. Like Kung's character had like that she's in the forest, she wanders from forest to forest. So Everbloom, anywhere that there's a forest, she would be protecting nature and the wildlife. And for example, Joe Boy could be related to one of our enemies apparently, so I figured he could potentially play a role where he's the son of a government enemy. But he's an interesting one because he wants to be with the heroes, he wants to side with us and help us, so he'd be the betrayer of his bad guy relative, which kind of could work for a government person, I feel, even though he could play a part in the West and a bad guy there, like below Boss's brother or something. But I feel like there's a potential role for him being involved in the government, being a relative of the government. Okay, so next character. Raindrop. Spelling. Don't worry, I always spell things wrong too. Commence. It is exclamation mark raindrop, so I don't know why it didn't show up then. Sometimes it goes weird. Maybe it's because you just did a command and it doesn't allow spamming, but don't worry. Try again in a few seconds and it might work. Azrael now. Okay, so I wander the land helping where I can, hoping that countless small deeds will eventually erase one terrible deed in my past. And okay, so years ago, Azrael was in the army. He blindly followed orders, believing his superiors were just and fair. And it turned out there was a lot of like dodgy stuff going on in the army that he didn't realise was happening. So he left, and many ranking officers in the army have disappeared mysteriously since then. And he could have a link to Dave's character, you know, because Dave is also an army veteran. So I feel that those two could link in with a potential story there. So because Dave hangs about on the mountain, he could be round from them parts too, or even maybe the Taiga zone. He's furry, he's light blue in colour, he could fit with that the colder kind of setting look, that's for sure. So from the information we've got here, I'm going to place him here. But also here. I don't know if it'd be as far out as the deeps now, so we'll stick him just there for now. He definitely feels like he belongs there. He's not a very nice light blue colour with that furry coat. Gotta clean the rat cage, but listening to this in the background. Thank you. Oh, you got ratties. If anyone wants to put pics of their pets in our pets channel in the Discord, feel free to, folks, because we do have a pets channel. It's always nice to see your cute fur babies, guys. I believe in you guys. You'll get those raindrops. I know it. Okay, so where are we now? Adoring fan. Okay, now this one is easy to me because he just connects so much with Libos. Is like the Libos character. Just as a summary, Libos's character is the crime boss of fighting pits where people are fighting to be a champion. Very Greek gladiator inspired, and this character follows grand champions. It's basically inspired by the character from Oblivion in Elder Scrolls. So he's going to be part of the whole life. Wherever Libos is, he is basically. Because it just very coincidentally fits. They fit together too well. I mean, the whole Lobos could connect over to the Wasteland and Badlands too. It doesn't have to necessarily just be in the urban zone. I feel like all this area, let's get it back up, all this urban, wastelandy, badlandsy area was very much the same thing and very connected to each other. I grow more powerful. Yes, you're a trickle and you're going to be a splash soon. Facia. All right, so we get in close to the last few. We've got 6 left now. Are we going to do the last 6 before the end? She is clearly a part of the cult of masked fairy people. They might not necessarily all be fairies that are masked, but she is very much a mayhem, creator of chaos. She has a master that like really fits with the whole cult thing. Someone's ruling her. So just looking at her, I honestly don't think she's going to be in the east part of the world. Sorry, because it's too. She's an antagonist that feels very far removed from the law and order world of where the government are based in the east. So I'm feeling like she'd either be part of the west, where things are very basically an anarchy, where lots of factions are coming into rule, or part of the fairy kingdom. So it's either one or the other for me. I mean, she's a fairy herself, so that's why I was thinking fairy kingdom if we wanted to have some weird goings on in that part of the world. So I'm going to put her in both for now because it very much could be either at this point. I mean, it could even link to the corrupted zone. Yeah, I'm assuming not many people could survive in the corrupted zone. So I'm going to put her in both the urban and the floating cloud zone for now, because it could work for that character, I think. Poppy, Legmog's been waiting for this one. Poppy, who is Rose's stalker. She's Rose's doppelganger. So I'm really looking forward to thinking of Poppy's plot in the story, whether it's going to be something introduced in episode 1 as a part of early game Rose character arc, or something that is more when we get to Rose's home, the farmlands, if it's going to be something we deal with then. So I'm going to put her in both for now, as either a character in the farmlands or a character in Everbloom Forest. I mean, she's a human. She could live in Lakefall. But that does give a question mark to how she's been able to get away with things when they fear the vampire Rose there. But we'll have a think about where she's the best fit. Next one. Neffel. Right, so something crossed my mind with Neffel's character. He's got a pet pig mask on, right? There's pigs in the farm. What if he cut the face off a real pig? That's really horrible and disgusting, I know. But, you know, what if he, it literally was a real pig? Like, so I was thinking either the farmland, if that was the case, if we wanted to link him, because we do actually have pigs. We actually did the sprites. We put them together and put them in a little section in the farm. I'm going to have to use the sprite for Neffel though, not the face, because we haven't done Neffel's face yet. So I'm thinking either the farm or the urban part. He's a fit for either, or the wasteland. So urban or farm, whatever fits best for his character. Oracle now. Oracle said that Oracle would be somewhere isolated. Moon's Eye. There's a mystery behind an ancient artifact that holds the secrets of my powers of divination. It is called the Moon's Eye. Interesting. Right. My birth killed everyone in the village. I was discovered as a baby and always been treated as a bad omen. Something fits Dark Woods vibe with this character's birth as well, which is also linked to Legion and the swamps, because, well, if it is the swamps, it might be Taiga, where the Dark Woods village is located. One or the other. So, but somebody mentioned the subduction zone as well for Oracle. So, like we said, he could be anywhere, this one. We don't have any Badlands characters yet. Wonder if anyone will make a goody old prospector. Yeah, well, this is why it's really cool, because you guys that still have NPCs to make can kind of slide in some characters in these zones where we've got less going on. That'd be a clever thing to do, for sure. And as for someone like Chub Cheeks and Neffel's characters, some of those could be part of the Badlands as well, not necessarily just the urban or wasteland. And as for Chub, that's just where he's kind of been brought up and lived mainly, not where he is now. We still a question mark on where he is now. Where was Oracle? Okay, so I'm thinking either swamp, taiga, or snow, because we haven't got many in the snow area. Oh no, we didn't copy and paste. I mean, he's a very mysterious, isolated character, and I feel like these zones are quite isolated, and we don't have many NPCs in them yet, so that could work. The farm could have worked, but he did mention he could have been born in the farm. But really, anywhere that's a small little town could work for where he was born. I'll put him there for now. I feel like though these three spots stick out. These three for now kind of stick out to me for him. I'm going to save these again. Okay, next character. Scaly! Okay, so I'm part of a group of fairy outcasts that want to collect rare magical artifacts, and she's secretly the daughter of a fairy king in a faraway land, but was cast out for being too friendly to outsiders. So from that, the rules are pretty rigid there, which I kind of thought it would be the case anyway. The politics in the cloud land would be very, very rigid. People getting cast out was mentioned as well, and perhaps now living in the urban area since they've been cast out. So she helps people enchant items, but she secretly does it. So, you know, so maybe she is a fit for the wasteland or urban zone as a exiled fairy from the Cloud Kingdom. That's kind of the feels I'm getting from that one. Unless she somehow travelled east and is more part of what the goings on in the east. So either could work. I mean, something like enchanting would not be too early game, I imagine. I'm gonna plop her up here so we know that she came from there. I don't think I've got time to put a home icon on her now though, because we want to get the rest of the NPCs in. Swamp, since there's so much abandoned stuff here, the abandonment could be related to the curse. The curse. Were you on about Oracle? If you was on about Oracle, then yeah, I agree that the swamps could be definitely a fit for Oracle's character. But if you mean Scale, what curse? Did I read the profile? I'm wondering now. So I'm thinking either the urban area, but it also could be, if we want her to be in the east, then she'd probably be maybe more here. So I just wanted to put her in the east as well if we decide we want to have the enchanting item mechanic a little bit earlier on. So yeah, just keep her there for now. When we think, yeah, I was wondering, I was thinking you meant that, because I was thinking, yeah, the curse loop is part of Oracle's story, but I'm getting swamp vibes for him too, because Legion's character arc kind of it has similar themes to that as well, with the curse with his character. So you never know, we could connect the two somehow potentially. Okay, now I think winter's our last one. Oh, we might have done it in time. Okay, so winter is the same as Raidu, everybody, because she's Raidu's love. So that's already established. Wherever Raidu is, winter is, basically. So she will be either in the Highlands or the mountain zone with Raidu, and I'm putting her below Raidu because she's an NPC, not a playable character. And her home is still a question mark at the moment. Any forested area, which kind of either fits jungle or everbloom forest for her home. So they're not there now. They're not their home now, but we, you know, their shack or hut could still be there, and we could be able to go in it and look in it and sort of get clues that Raidu and Winter once lived there. And if it is the Everbloom Forest at the time of finding that stuff, we wouldn't really know them, but it would be a foreshadow for when we meet those guys. So that could be quite interesting if we made the home of Winter be Everbloom Forest, and then we could find some little bits and bobs in there to kind of, when we finally do meet them, we're like, oh, it's them, from the people that were living in the woods. We saw their stuff. Because if it was the jungle, then it wouldn't really matter, because that's way later on. She could enchant the items on the beach with buried and sunken treasure as a source of artifacts. That's possible too. You know, now I'm thinking about it, she could be part of, if we want to have her be, you know, that could fit. I mean, she would have had far to travel, but I imagine if she was cast out, she'd want to be as far away as possible from her fairy king father, because she wouldn't have been happy with being cast out. I'm not sure whether her vibe fits the urban, so I might just keep her at the beach, you know, but we can always change it if we feel she should be in the urban area. But yeah, we're pretty empty in regards to the beach, so it definitely wouldn't hurt putting her there. But, you know, it's no worry. I mean, we don't have to have every area jam-packed full of NPCs right now, because there's still going to be many more to come. Lots of future community character NPCs that can fill in some of these less filled in spots. And don't forget, some areas are naturally less populated than others anyway, so places like the corrupted zone and subduction zone are naturally gonna possibly have less NPCs there, unless there was a town. Then there's a chance to populate the towns. I mean, the snow zone's a little bit empty so far, but I can imagine there being a snow village of some kind around. You got to have a snow village. Okay, so I think we've done everybody, which is awesome. We fit everybody in. Did it all in one stream, folks. Huzzah! So that is kind of our little plan at the moment. Next stream we'll be going back into fleshing out things back in the Everbloom Forest. Again, we'll probably consider these NPCs that we've placed here and how they could be a fit in episode 1, and how we'll create some little stories for them, the ones that we know will be in there. We'll try and figure out who works best there, and whether some of them might be better being moved to the farm if they don't have a fit here. That's something to discuss and talk about next stream, I think. We can just get into things deeper with these ones here and figure out how they're going to fit. You know, you could always add to the NPC form, what part of the world are you from? Yeah, I think a good question could be, especially now we've done this, would be to add where, like what kind of area would you live in, and then we could even have a drop down menu of highland, swamp, beach, farm, jungle, savannah, desert, and then, you know, it's easier for us then. We don't have to mull over too long where they'd be from. But yeah, that could work. Sometimes, like, I don't want to, like, I mean, sometimes it's nice to have the freedom, like me and the community, in case someone's character just slots perfectly in another location. Because imagine if, like, someone was perfect to bring in the farmland, but unfortunately they said they were from the wasteland. We kind of limit ourselves. So that's the only fear about putting that as a question, in case, like, our creativity gets limited because of things like that. But I can see it being easier for us to a certain degree. Maybe we should word it as, where would you most likely be from? So that we've still got the freedom to change if we feel like somebody is a better fit elsewhere. So not wording it as where are you from, but where would you most likely be from? Because then it still allows us to change if we feel so. So yeah, I'll think about doing it like that then. Empty areas more so than the ones which have a lot. Yeah, so it all depends on the character. Like, if someone makes a farmer character, then it only makes sense for them to be in the farmland zone. So, you know, but, you know, we've only got a handful of NPCs right now, so there's going to be room for way more. Like, in the farm, it's not like we're going to just have just these ones there. There's going to be plenty of room for NPCs. Okay, so let's save this now. Well, obviously, somewhere like Everbloom Forest, eventually will come a time when we've already done all the NPCs, so nobody would be able to have their NPC live there, and then we'd have to remove Everbloom Forest off the form. To be honest, I can't see Everbloom Forest being on the form. It's too late now, because we're already in the process of making the NPCs for Everbloom Forest. But for the farmland and beyond, yes. Unless it gets ridiculously overpopulated with NPCs, it can stay on the form. Okay, so right, guys, let's pass the love on to somebody. I think we should, but let's do a trivia, shall we, before we go? Because we've only got one more stream in September now after today, so you know, we need to give you guys a last chance of getting to the top of the leaderboard on the trivia. So I'm going to pop the question in a sec while I look for someone to host and raid. Farming yams in the savannah. Yeah, I guess the savannah in a way would work. Having a little section like that. Okay, so trivia. What item of clothing does Meryl wear? Pink bra, yeah. Okay, so and just as a reminder, folks, all the answers to the trivia are on the Lore Bible. So if you've looked at it enough, you'll see that the answers are kind of there. GG Van, Lore Master second month in a row, I think it's going to be for you. Alright, so I'm looking who's online. Who we haven't said hi to in a while, maybe we'll go to today. Gretch Star is on. She's played Final Fantasy 12. Haven't seen Gretch in a while, so I think we should go over and say hi to Gretch today. And she's playing a Final Fantasy Pilgrimage. If she's on 12 now, she's near the end of it. I'm trying, yay! Well, I'm proud of you, Van. Okay, so raid Gretch Star. See you guys next time then. On Wednesday. It'll be fun. We're gonna go back to I think the next step will be we'll do Story Suggest-a-thon again next stream. Because the last two streams have been more world building than Story Suggest-a-thon, in all honesty. But we'll go back into doing the Story Suggest-a-thon again and start developing the NPCs. Well, we might do a bit of NPC development, as well as thinking of some particular story elements and how to tie NPCs and story elements together. Because we've only got one side quest so far, the Stumpy side quest. And there's a little bit more potential to fill in gaps in the main quest as well. So I think there's definitely room for bringing in some side quests in particular, and filling in the gaps in the main plot will be cool too. Thanks for streaming. I'll try to post more on Discord. Yeah, sure. And NPC dev sounds like fun. Yeah, it's going to be fun. And got to get back to it. So stepping out lunch, I've sent you a message with ideas. Awesome. Okay, so let's raid Gretch Star then, guys. I'll see you all next time. Thanks for being fabulous and awesome. And a raid command for anyone who wants to join in. That'll be fab. Bye, everybody.